So this is the last part of the home run course. We're almost done now. We're going to hear some more student presentations today, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's going to be hard. You guys are going to be hard pressed to beat the last set of presentations. So I'm expecting big things from you guys. They were fantastic, those presentations, and we'll see how it goes today. I'm sure you guys will live up to the billing. I shared with you all a short video of something that happened 32 years ago yesterday when Ottawa was granted a franchise, the Ottawa Senators, by the National Hockey League. And Karina wrote back and said to me, is that you in the video, Bruce? And so she was, she's a young woman, so I felt like I asked my wife to take the dagger out of my back. And it kind of reminds me of Raiders of the Lost Ark. I don't know if you guys know the film Raiders of the Lost Ark, where hello, Alex, where Indy is saying to his lady friend when she looks at him and says, "Oh my God, you've aged," and he says, "Listen, honey, it's not the years, it's the mileage." and so if Karina were here, I would say, "Listen, Karina, it's not the years, it's the mileage." But I thought, just for the record, I'll play that just because it'll be part of the record of our course. So I'll play the 30 seconds. So this is what happened. It was a wonderful time, for us as a company. We were young. I was in my 30s, and I'm now in my 70s, and everybody thought that there would be expansion and that the NHL would grant 2 expansion franchises, but they thought it would go to 2 American cities. There were a lot of bidders. There was Tampa Bay, Ottawa, Hamilton, Houston, Seattle, Portland, Milwaukee. I'm missing a few, St. Petersburg. There were quite a few American bidders, and there were some Canadian bidders too, really, just Ottawa and Hamilton. And so I'll just share with you the 30-second announcement. And we had 120 people down in Palm Beach campaigning with us, including the fire department marching band.
Yeah.
So I'll show you that. This is the, let me see if I could share my screen with you guys and get the right one here. So just before I play it, can you give me the thumbs up? You can see it? All right, so let's play it. So this, just before I start, this is the Palm Beach where the winter meetings were. So this would have been December of 1990. And this hotel is called the Breakers Hotel in Florida. And if you've ever seen the movie The Shining with Jack Nicholson, this reminded me a hell of a lot of the Overlook Hotel. And the Overlook Hotel was a scary, creepy place. I thought this was a terrible hotel. But anyway, this is where it took place. And I'll play it now for you.
All right.
The Board of Governors today have granted additional franchises beginning in the 1992-93 season to the applicants representing the city of Ottawa.
There you go.
All right.
So that's enough of that. I'll just share with you. And just before you joined us, Karina, I told everybody how you insulted me by saying, "Was that you in that video?" That's okay.
I didn't say anything mean.
No, it's okay. I can take it. And the truth is, Karina, it's not the years, it's the mileage. It really is. If a lot of people say, I want to become an entrepreneur, and I'll say, "Oh, okay. Why is that?" And they say, "Because I want to work fewer hours, and make more money." And I go, "Oh, really?"
Well, Bruce, if I could just chip in here, I did want to say what a fantastic achievement that happened back in 1990, and it's certainly been a big benefit to the city,
Thank you
to
for that.
all the sports loving people, and it's put Ottawa on the map internationally and nationally.
It
So
is.
that was a fantastic thing. And I also just want to mention that I was at the very first game, the home
Oh,
opener.
wow.
Ottawa played Montreal, and nobody thought we had a chance against Montreal as a brand new team. And sure enough, the Ottawa Senators won that home opener.
Yeah,
The very
I
first
agree.
game was a very close game, and
And Montreal won the Stanley Cup that year.
That's true.
They're the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup, and that's a long time ago now.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
I'll share with you. I'll share with you the story of the last few moments before that announcement was made. I used to be quite a good runner, and you know, the winter meetings weren't being held, and we'd done our presentation, and so we were just waiting for a decision. We didn't know what decision would come down, whether, you know, and you got to remember, I had spent by that time, I think I'd spent 3 years campaigning to get a team for Ottawa. We bought a piece of land, you know, 600 acres. We spent $7.2 million buying the land. We spent millions of dollars on the bid. You know, we had sold 15,000 season tickets for a team that didn't yet exist. And I was thinking, holy smokes, if we don't get this, you know, I'm going to have to find a new hometown. So anyway, we waited all morning while the meetings were going on, and we didn't know what was happening. And so I said to my staff, look, they'll probably be there all day. I'm going to go for a run. So I went for a jog along the beach in Palm Beach, and around 5 to 1, I was just coming back, you know, from a nice run, and I could see a couple of my staff out front of this hotel. Like I said, it looks like the Overlook Hotel where The Shining was with Jack Nicholson was filmed. And I see my staff waving me on, hurry up, hurry up. So I jog a little faster, and I said, what's up? Well, the NHL has made a decision. Oh, I said, what decision? We don't know. We have to be in our suite by 1 because they're going to come and collect all the bidders. And I said, oh, okay. So I went up to my suite. I didn't have time for a shower, so I put a little deodorant on, put my suit on, you know, prettied myself up as best I could. And NHL security came and escorted us down the back stairs, all the way down to the ground floor. But we didn't stop at the ground floor. We went into the basement. And the basement, you know, it's kind of low ceilings. It has pipes everywhere. They were leaking. It's the prep kitchen. There's food waste all over the place. It's a real mess. And NHL security was keeping myself, Cyril Leader, Randy Sexton, Elliot Richardson, the mayor of Ottawa, Jim Durrell, Gary Burns from our accounting firm. So we had our small inner group there. And I'm standing there with the pipes leaking on me and the garbage everywhere. And I turned to my colleagues. I said, "Whoa, it doesn't look like we've been successful today." And you know, because the board of governors are upstairs in the ballroom and probably whooping it up with the successful bidders, and here we are in the basement, right? And so they said, okay. And I said, look, if we're not successful today, we're going to thank the National Hockey League for the opportunity to be a bidder, and then we're going to hold our own press conference. And at that press conference, we're going to say, look, we did everything we could to get an expansion franchise for Canada, for Ottawa, but we weren't successful today. But we're going to come back in a year, and we're going to try again. Because my dad taught me never take no for an answer when you really, really want something. Ask my wife. I had to ask her to marry me a couple of times, until I finally persuaded her. And then 5 kids later, here we are. So I said, you know, and there was a few tears. You know, I was a little bit teary-eyed because I'm an emotional guy in many ways. And I said, look, I'm really proud of the work we all did. We just couldn't have done anything more. So eventually we're taken upstairs to the ballroom, and I go in there, and there's Marcel Lebeau, who was the owner of the Quebec Nordiques. And he comes up to me, and he's a big guy. He gives me a big bear hug. He says, "Félicitations, mon ami," and gives me a handshake and a bear hug. I go, oh, okay. Because I think he's congratulating me for a good try. And then I go up to the head of the table where John Ziegler, who was the president of the National Hockey League, was. And there was Phil Esposito, who, if you know anything about hockey, was a great hockey player in his day. And he was representing the city of Tampa Bay for what became the Tampa Bay Lightning. And so I look at Phil and he looks at me and we go, what the heck? And then I look down next to Mr. Ziegler, and there on a piece of paper, it says, the National League is pleased and proud to announce today conditional franchises have been granted to the cities of Ottawa and Tampa. I said, holy shit, we just won this thing. And it was a great moment, I'll have to tell you. And then, of course, the press conference and everything else. But that moment in the Board of Governors room, that was really something. And Bob, just to, add something to what you said, some years later, it would have been probably the early 2000s by that time, so a decade later, one of my friends who runs a venture capital firm out of Boston, one of the oldest firms, I think it is the oldest VC firm in the United States, maybe in the world, told me that that about $2 billion US of venture capital had come into the city of Ottawa since we founded the Ottawa Senators. I said, oh, that's nice to hear. He said, do you know why, Bruce? I said, well, I guess there are some good startups. He said, not really. He said, most venture capital firms, maybe all of them, only invest in tier 1 cities. And I said, well, how do you identify tier 1 cities? He said, we don't. We let the major leagues do that. So if you have a Major League Baseball team or an NBA team or an NFL team or an NHL team, we consider that a major league city. And we will not invest in second or third tier markets. And I said, I didn't know that. And he said, the reason we do that is it's not that there aren't smart people in small cities and towns in North America. There's plenty of them, but they don't have around them enough of an ecosystem where you have other smart people and great accountants, great finance people, great potential employees. You need to be in a tier 1 market, and Ottawa was finally that. So that's the story I wanted to share with you today.
Wow, a fantastic achievement, Bruce. And I think not only does it make the city tier 1, but also helps to attract great talent to the city. People that
I think it does. I think it does.
Want to be part of.
We have terrible weather, but great people. That's Canada as a general rule. All right, so a couple of things. As you guys know, Dan and his wife have got a new addition to their family, baby Zoe, which Bob talked about. And Dan, I'm expecting some pictures. I'd like to see some pictures at some point. Don't forget, our final exam is December 21st at noon Eastern time, so 9 a.m. Pacific time. And all the stuff that you've been getting from me and all of the stuff that we've been doing, I put into that course workbook, and I will send it to you probably this weekend. So it'll be a 1-hour exam. You guys will all pass, I have no doubt. But if you have time, you can review the workbook because all the questions will come from that. It'll be very simple. It'll be just, and it will be, it's not, you're not writing any essays. It's just, can you remember what ROI stands for? Return on investment, right? It'll be simple stuff.
Now, Bruce, can I assume that it's a multiple choice test?
It is a multiple choice test.
And is it open book?
Yeah, I mean, I am going to monitor you on Zoom, so you have to be on Zoom. So what will happen is I'll send you a Zoom link, and about 5 minutes before sort of noon, I'll send you the exam, and then we'll have an hour together. And I'll be there just basically if you have any questions. But it's fine if it's open book. I don't care. I want you to pass, but I want you to maybe study a little bit too. And then you'll all pass. You have to get 75% or better to pass, and I'm sure you'll have no problem. And then you all get a nice graduation certificate, which might mean something, especially for the younger people who've studied with me as time goes on. So don't forget that, and I'll send you the Zoom link as well as the workbook. And the workbook won't be quite finished. It'll be 98 or 99% finished, but there's a few things that I'm still working on. One thing that I think I mentioned to you already in this class, and I'll try and get through this as quickly as possible because I've taken too much time already, is that Jake and Paula and I have been talking about setting up some kind of a company to finance some of their projects. And one of the things, Jake and Paula, I sent to you is an idea I had. It's an idea, it's a thought, is that I put about 2,500 people through my coaching practice over the last now 10 years. And one of the things I'm thinking is maybe this finance thing should be more like a cooperative. And what if I were to invite 2,500 people who I've coached, and not all of them, of course, would be interested, but some of them might be interested in participating. And what I'm thinking is, and it's just an idea, is that we create a fund, which might have a few $100 million in it, hopefully at some point, which could fund real estate entrepreneurs like us. Because most of the funders out there are VCs who are interested in, in tech companies, the next Facebook or whatever. Hopefully not the next Twitter, but the next whatever tech thing. But the funding that's available to most real estate entrepreneurs is terrible. It's very, very expensive. It could be 10%, it could be 12%, it could be 15% interest rates. They limit you to 65% loan to value, or maybe 75 or 80%. But 50%, you're killing me, Michael. So what I was thinking, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, and Jake and Paula, you don't make any comments. We'll work on your fund. If that's a private fund, that's fine. But what I'm thinking is that this fund would not just provide loans, but would also take equity, because that's how you can get the loan to value up from 50%, like Michael was saying, or 65% or 80% to much closer to 100%. And from the point of view of the entrepreneurs, you've got the fund as your partner. But from the point of view of the fund, yes, you're making some money on interest. But if you think about it, much of the return in real estate is long-term appreciation, right? And most funds don't benefit from that. In fact, almost none of them, none that I know of, actually do this, unless they're private equity funds where they do it for themselves. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm going to extend an invitation to the Homerun class and maybe 2,500 other people to come to a webinar where we could discuss it. I don't know, Jake and Paula, what you think.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, and we're open to that, and we'd love to be part of the webinar.
And what I'm thinking is, I have a pretty good handle on how that might be organized. And but it has to be run by younger people. In other words, it can't be run by me. I'm too old now. I just am, and I don't know how much longer I'll be around. Hopefully a while yet. But
yeah, we need you.
Oh, that's so nice of you. I tell you, every week I come on here, I feel better.
That's good.
But no,
Bruce, we need you at least another 20 years, but you should book 30 just to be just in case.
Yeah.
oh, you guys are really too kind, but thank you. But what I'm still, I would be an advisor to this company, but you need to have, it could be really an extraordinary fund to provide real estate entrepreneurs with real resources to great things. So anyway, I'll extend an invitation. If you want to come, that's fine. That's great.
And Bruce, before you go on, I should say, because I used to be involved with stuff like that, and I have the same opinion of you, even though you are senior to me, but it needs to be a younger people that do that. But I can put you in the right direction of the lawyers that take care of all the paperwork automated, that saves you about 90% of your hassle.
Oh, that would be fantastic. In fact, I'm going to take you up on that, Michael. Thank you for that. Michael, just and I apologize again, we're taking so much time, but Michael, when are you going flight? When are you going to space?
I leave tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, and on Sunday morning, I'll be waving down at you guys.
So Michael is heading to orbit,
I didn't know this.
suborbital orbit on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saturday or Sunday, whatever the 11th is. Yeah.
What do you mean you're going to orbit? Look, what does that mean?
Yeah, we need more details.
I'll get you a picture.
He's going into
Yes.
space. He's being launched into outer space.
Which company?
How?
Space tourism.
Well, see, what
Wow.
happens is when you're born in the early 60s and the turn on the television and Star Trek is on, you go, oh, I want to do that. And then it's my 60th birthday. So now I'm doing it.
Congrats.
Yeah, that's
Happy
awesome.
birthday.
Yeah.
Wow.
I will congratulate him when he comes back.
Yeah. I'll be back.
I'll be back, Mr. Terminator. All right. So I'm super excited for you, Michael, and it's go flight. Okay. So I still have 2 places for the Merida thing. Jake and Paula, I think you're coming. Yep.
Yeah, we just haven't filled out the form yet, but we're
You have
coming.
to fill in the form and sign it in blood. So I've got 2 more spaces to fill in if anybody wants to come. We're going to have a fabulous week in Merida. Bob, yes.
I'm considering it. I'm trying to convince Dan to see if he can get some time away. He's got a little bit of a tight schedule with work and he's been away with the young baby. But if that could work out, myself and Dan may want to join in.
It would be fantastic to have you there. It'll be an incredible week. We're going to do the real estate thing. And the course itself has changed a little bit. It's called Daydream to Reality. But because of the people that we've got coming, there's going to be a lot more crosstalk, a lot more teaching, not just by me. So I've asked, Jake and Paula, for example, to prepare, something from their life story, their experiences in real estate, some of the issues and challenges. Everybody's going to do a lecture, not just Firestone here. And so there'll be a lot more, intra student learning. And we're going to do some really exciting adventures as well. Merida's an incredible place. And Michael's coming as well. He's going to talk he's going to give a lecture. So we got 2 more places, Bob. It'd be great to have you and Dan. Would you and Dan be okay sharing a suite together?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, good.
Work.
Because I've reserved 12 suites at this beautiful boutique hotel.
As long as there's 2 beds.
Yeah, I'm not putting in the same. Yeah, I get that. Guys, 2 ladies will share. My daughter and my wife will share, but Jake and I are not sharing our bed. Definitely not. And just the way we're built. My wife doesn't understand that, and I said, it's okay. It's just a guy thing, I think. Anyway, I've got 2 more spaces, and Bob, let me know if you and Dan want to come. That would leave me with 1 more. Something else I was meant to mention too as well. Yeah, this is the last thing I'll talk about. One of my clients is in trouble. She is building 2 eighplexes, and she's short $1 million to finish them. And her cap rates are between 4.5% and 4.9%. Really, at this time, too low to attract investors. So she asked me, what the heck do I do, Prof? And she's an actual former student of mine, probably around the time that you were a student of mine, Alex. And I said, this is really friggin' tough. 4.5%, 4.9%, interest rates 7.39%. What the hell do you do? So I'm working on something I call, instead of focused exclusively on cap rates, I'm going to look at something called a life cycle analysis. It's brand new, at least brand new to me. So we're going to work, Julie and I are going to work on something called life cycle analysis, and I'll share it with you. Because as real estate investors, we may have to switch away from cap rates. Not that cap rates are going away, but instead of just an exclusive focus on that, saying, okay, when we finish the project, our cap rate is 4.5%, which fails. Maybe in her case, we can look at what is the internal rate of return over, say, a 15 or 20-year period, or 10 or 15 or 20-year period. What does that look like? If the internal rate of return between appreciation of the asset, mortgage pay down, and some cash flow looks at like 18 to 20 or 22%, maybe that would be acceptable to investors instead if they have a longer term view. So I'll keep you guys up to date, because this might be an important addition. And anything like this, while we're doing this home run, I'll just shove it into the course workbook too when I finish with it. But that's something we may have to do. One more thing I did send to you, Paul and Jake. and I've taken up a whole half hour again, I apologize. But one of the things I did send to you as well on Airbnb income, and I challenged you, Paula, in particular, because you're a super host, and Paula's teaching me stuff about Airbnb I didn't know, is that apparently Airbnb is working with a number of lenders, hopefully some in Canada, but certainly in the United States, that will recognize Airbnb income. And so, Paula, I was hoping you would reach out to Airbnb because they are there to help people like us and find out if so that, because right now, as you guys know, if you have Airbnb income, the appraisers say, oh, no, we can't look at that. Oh, F you, basically. And lenders will say, oh, no, we can't look at that. But they should, in my opinion. And I think, Paula, you would agree.
I agree, yeah. And I did reach out yesterday. I do know of a couple in the US, but in Canada so far haven't come up with anything, but I'll let you know if I do.
Yeah, and you know, Airbnb is I think the largest hotel group in the world by like multiples, right? And they have real power. So if somebody at Airbnb was willing to talk to some of the secondary lenders in Canada, the Royal Bank of Canada is not going to pay any attention to anybody, right? Maybe the Bank of Canada governor, but and the prime minister, but other than that, and the finance minister, they don't pay attention to anybody. So talking to the Royal Bank of Canada is not going to work. But Airbnb could talk to some secondary lenders in Canada and say, look, if you would open your doors to Airbnb income, we could find you 100,000 new mortgages.
Yep.
So I really would like to enlist Airbnb. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, and before, the other thing to remember is always you can do a left hand, right hand, right? If it's in one of your names, the other person does a rent at $2,500 a month, 35, whatever it is, and keeps the Airbnb separate. That's been done many times successfully.
Yeah,
we tried that, but they still want to use. Well, I shouldn't say. We've tried it the last time. They still want to use the market rents. They don't want to take in. So we didn't even inflate it that much. We did like high end market rent. And they still wanted to use like their market
Regular
rents.
market rent.
yeah,
So
we just have to, we have to
$500 a
find
unit.
100%. So Mike, Michael, I've run into the same problem that Jake just reiterated, and it's difficult. So we need to find, not only, Paula, do we need to find a lender who will play ball, but we need to have the lender talk to their appraisers.
Maybe this is like a second fund opportunity.
Well, no, our fund, if we had one, would recognize Airbnb income. You could be sure of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. You don't need a second fund. That's one fund. They'll say, if you've got that beautiful London, it's London, that the 9-unit Airbnb hotel.
Stratford.
Stratford, yeah, fabulous. I mean, the income on that is unbelievable. And you can be sure that our fund, if we can get one going, we'll recognize it. So we don't need a second fund. Just
Let's get that done in like 2 months.
All right. Bravo. Let's do it. Okay, Bob, I apologize again.
All right.
So much time. I made you the co-host. Do you mind sharing your screen and blast away? Bob is going to talk about Madawaska Shores Phase 3.
Great. So I'm going to switch now to Office. All right. So for my presentation this morning, I'm looking at reviewing the Madawaska Shores residential development. I've completed now phase 1 and moving on to phase 2 and phase 3. And so
Bob, can you
Bob, we don't see anything right now, Bob.
can you boot up your presentation?
my presentation is showing on my screen.
All right.
Yeah, we're not seeing anything, Bob.
So stop sharing.
Stop sharing.
Yeah,
Okay.
stop sharing.
Okay.
And then press down on share screen, and
Share screen.
you'll see some different options will show up graphically, and you can
Okay.
your presentation. So you'll see.
Can you see now?
Yay!
Okay, great. Glad that I got
There
it
you
now.
go.
Perfect.
Okay, so as I mentioned, Madawaska Shores is a residential development over just outside of Arnprior, and it's right on the Madawaska River. And this started approximately 5.5 years ago. And I've completed now phase 1 and moving towards phase 2 and 3. So what I'm looking at doing is to provide a primer on land development. And just to give you some of the steps that I went through so people understand what's involved in land development. And then I'm going to show you some of the current challenges that I have, and I'll be looking for feedback from some of you on maybe how we could overcome the challenges so that I can get phase 3 to move ahead. Okay, so in land development, first you got to find that ideal piece of land that will satisfy the needs of your development and also has necessary conditions. So when we talk about necessary conditions, one thing that Bruce helped me to get set up and to do was to buy the piece of land with conditions that it can be rezoned to the proper zoning you need for your development, and also that the property can be brought into zoning with the township and with the county, and that all the conditions can be brought so that it will be successful to move forward. So the developer will also require a fair amount of financing to pick up the land, to get all the necessary studies done, and then later to start into the construction of necessary roads and so on. And the normal time to rezone and then start to selling lots is about 2 to 3 years. So what really would be required is either a silent partner, maybe the person that you're buying the land from, they can be your silent partner and work with you, or you can go into something that Bruce has just been talking about, is to find a development fund, some type of a development fund that you can have access and get some funds to help you get started. And of course, any resources you have yourself certainly go a long way, and you need to have some resources to get that going. The other thing that's required is a strong team. This is not a one-person job, land development. You've got to have a relationship with a good planner, a lawyer, like a development lawyer that knows all about developing, a good accountant. Surveyors are absolutely required because you have to know how to get that land divided up and use a surveyor to work with you. If it involves roadways, and almost everyone does, you'll have to get some construction road builders, get a relationship with them, get them on board your team so that they can help in delaying some of the funding to the building. You'll need a finance specialist, such as a broker, and also you need to find a whole group of consultants, because there's several studies, and I'm going to go into that, some of the studies that are required to be granted a zoning change in land development. So this here is a little bit of my presentation in phase 1 to give you an example of what was presented to the township and the county planner and local people that wanted to hear what was going on. And so you have to be sure that your presentation meets the ears of the people going to approve it, as well as to sound good to your neighbors, because your neighbors could sink the whole project if you don't get into the right frame. So the subdivision that I did apply for was granted a draft approval, and this was the subdivision code. The subdivisions go first through the county. The county is the only one that has the authority to grant a subdivision, and it was for a 30-lot residential development on a 53-acre parcel of land with 18 waterfront lots and 12 inland lots. Now, my passion was to develop waterfront. I grew up as a boy on water, and I always wanted to make sure that I could have a waterfront property And I said, well, one way to get a waterfront lot is to get a big chunk and then subdivide it and sell off the other ones. And certainly that way I was able to get my own personal lot and as well help a lot of other people get waterfront lots they're looking for. So the property was a combination of both open land and treed areas with beautiful vistas of the Madawaska. There's going to be a video shortly showing you that. And the development was designed by Xander Plan. That was my planner, and consistent with existing residential development. You don't want to make it too strange for their local neighbors, because if it's not consistent with what some of the other subdivisions are, they'll put up a lot of walls and try and block your plans. And also, I designed this development as a green development where there was minimal trees will be cut down and disrupted, and nature in the area would be preserved. So this was the piece of land. And as you can see from my cursor here, can you see my cursor all right? Okay, great. So the cursor shows that the land started from right here across alongside this existing development. And then from this road here, which was Mill Ridge Road, to the end of the development is approximately 1 kilometer. So a good chunk of land. And what Bruce helped me to acquire is this first piece here that went all the way to the water, but it couldn't really be developed because it's so long and skinny that the cost of the road would not be subject to approval. So then I spoke with the neighbor, and they also were interested in selling. And after, if you can believe this, 18 offers, they finally came around, and I was able to acquire the land. And with the two pieces together, there was a good subdivision. And I got them to be a silent partner. And so then I had the land, or I could pay them back at a later time once the development was going. And as the lots were sold off, they would be getting certain amounts of the money. So that really helped get the financing going. And then this waterfront here would allow you to get the funds necessary. These lots went from starting at 250,000 to 400,000, depending on the size. So that gave a good amount of money to build the necessary road in the development. So this here shows the development for phase 1. And as you can see, there were a total of 18 waterfront lots along the river, and then 12 inland lots. And the roadway that I built was a little over 1 kilometer in length. That was the roadway with a cul-de-sac. And once you get draft approval, you can start pre-selling the lots. And even, I think, even before full draft approval, you can start showing your plans, getting people interested. And then certainly once you have draft approval, you can start closing on the lots, taking the down payments, and that gives you ability to raise money, and for people that are working with you, finance, to see that this is a viable subdivision that is moving forward, and you get the necessary funding to get your road built and finalize the studies. So the application took about 18 months to get to draft approval, and numerous supporting studies had to be completed to show that the property was suitable for the residential development. The hydrogeological study showed that there was very good groundwater in the area, and that is the #1 study you always have to do. You have to prove that you have good water. If you don't have good water and you don't have a study to show that there's enough water for the whole development, you're stopped right there. You're stopped in your tracks. So that is your #1 study to do, and you have to prove you have the water. Then also a geotechnical slope stability, where you do have along a river, along a creek, You have to be able to show that it is good, and as well that the ground soil is suitable for foundations of the buildings. Environmental, stormwater management, and the stormwater management is getting to be more and more important. They want to make sure that the property drains properly, especially with the 100-year storms, which are seeming to be coming more often. Also, archaeological studies gave favorable results. So this here is all the studies that were necessary in this development. And the archaeological study really is to look to see if there's anything of significance, any old things, any things of importance. And if they find anything, it's interesting that it all goes to the province. The province gets any type of arrowheads, anything of significance, it goes to them. Also, the hydrogeological study examined the water availability, as mentioned, geotechnical study, slope stability study, environmental impact study is one that can give you a lot of problems. You have to take a look at your property, and if there's significant, for instance, areas where there's ponds and big environmental things that could really slow down and stop some development right in the area. They also need to check if there's any type of trees or impact to animals that are environmentally sensitive. Talking about a beechwood tree and other types of rare trees, those have to be preserved. And then also you need a good study on stormwater management so that flooding can be taken care of. A planning justification study done by your planner to show that you're following provincial standards on building. A site servicing report to show what is necessary to service the site. And do you have the necessary hydro? Do you have the necessary services to service all the homes? And then a draft plan by interior land surveyor showing what exactly you're looking at doing and all available for review. One of the things that I showed to the township is that it certainly will bring more people to the area, great recreational property with fun summer boating. And then I talked about the benefits of land development. And the main thing that the township is interested in is that they want to get a spur of economic activity and increase to their tax base. So the 30 new homes in this development with an average building cost of $350,000 will provide upwards of $10 million in economic activity for the area. Also, the property tax base will, because this waterfront homes or many high value homes will significantly increase. The township and the councilors really thought that was important in terms of their budgeting to keep future tax increases to existing townhomes in order and without big increases. And also local contractors and businesses that will see increase in their building activity, and retail stores and services will see increase in sales. So you're looking to show that this is going to help a lot of areas in the community. So all that helped to get the approval. Everything went ahead on the development, and so that was a big plus. Now I want to show you a video that was done. And if you hear some noise, there's some work being done here at the home, so hopefully it's not too loud for you. But Bruce, I want to share a different screen. So in order to do that, I go to New Share and want to bring up Google Sites. And here it is. And here's a video that shows a little bit of the property with one of the first lot owners in the property.
Bob, we're not hearing any sound. Bob, I can share it on my screen.
Okay. Are you getting too much noise?
No, we're just not hearing anything. Just give me a second. I'll pull it up on my screen. If you stop sharing, I
You
can pull
can't
it up.
see it? You can't see
We can
it?
see it. We can see it. We just can't hear it. Just give me a second. I
Oh.
have it on my computer.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
Bob,
it's-
while I'm going to put it up in a second here. I would suspect that the price of homes would be much, much higher than 350. On your Bob,
You're
you're muted. Bob, you're muted. Okay, unmute yourself.
Yeah, so the price of building has gone significantly up. A lot of those homes are well over 500,000 now, 5 to 700,000 building costs. And the small bungalows, in fact, I think one on lot.
Yeah,
lot
so
to
when you
5.
update those slides, I would put in a price range of 500 to 800,000. I mean, some of those homes are really expensive. So I'll share my screen with you guys so you can hear what the buyer is saying. So bear with me, and let's see, Jake and Paula, give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Chris at Madawaska Shores, and I'm just going to turn. We're going to see his better half up here, along with Bob Watna, the developer. And I'm coming back to you, Chris. So, Chris, how big a lot did you buy here?
Slightly over 1.25 acres, 1.26.
All right, and I can't understand what you saw in the lot.
Beautiful water, lovely terrain, space for a walkout, and lovely creek on one side.
So you've got a creek, and you've obviously got a slope, but it's walkable, right, to the river here.
Yeah, there's a number of plateaus, and we're building pathways in.
Okay, and you told me you're going to build a bungalow. It's pretty big. How big is the bungalow?
About 1,700 square feet.
And it has a walkout condition, so you'll actually end up with, I guess, 3,400 square feet of developed space. Is that right?
Well, yes, but officially 1,700.
Okay, we won't tell the township anything else. And last question, you mentioned something about a garage with a bunkie on top. Tell me about that.
Besides the house, we intend to have a separate double garage with a bunkie on top. We have a number of adult children who will soon be bringing their kids when they get around to that.
So it's really, in a way, going to be a multi-generational home.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it'll be in the family for a long time.
I sure hope so.
All right. Thank you so much for doing this.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, great, Bruce. Thanks for putting that up, and
No problem,
that-
Bob.
yeah. Go ahead.
Just before I'll stop sharing. Yeah. So you notice this was a few years ago. I did that, Bob, with Chris Hogan, and you were there. And you notice the strong market push to have multi-generational homes today. You know, like it's just incredible. I mean, Alex, you and I were talking about that with Daniel, and the demand for that is off the charts. You know, he's going to have a walkout where he can have a separate apartment. He's going to have the garage with the bunkie, and of course, you notice that he doesn't tell the city or the township or the county everything about his development. You know, because obviously it affects his property taxes, it affects his building permit. There's all kinds of other reasons why. You know, it's very frustrating. And we're coming back to you in a second, Bob. But if you read this morning, or yeah, I think it was this morning, Elon Musk, who is now moved into Twitter's headquarters in San Francisco because he's trying to fix the damn thing. He's fired more than half of the staff. So all of these huge buildings are empty. So what the staff are doing, because they're working with Elon to try and fix this really bad social media platform, they've started to turn their conference rooms and their empty offices into bedrooms. And San Francisco, the city of San Francisco, is all over him, and they're threatening him with legal action, et cetera. I mean, to me, it's such, excuse my language, BS. I mean, what the hell are we going to do? You know, I read another article yesterday that the real vacancy rate for downtown office buildings in North America, the real vacancy rate, not the posted one, the posted one is about 17 to 19%, is actually 53% vacant. So Paula, imagine if you had a 100-unit apartment building and 53 of your apartments were empty, you and Jake would jump off a bridge together, right? It would just be impossible, right? It'd be impossible. And so, he's got this huge building that's empty, and people, need a place. If you're looking at rents in San Francisco, they're off the charts. So unfortunately, we have to, it's been a theme throughout this course. We have to lie and cheat, and as developers, it's just terrible what we have to do, because our cities and our counties and our townships and our states and our provinces are so backward looking. It's ridiculous. One more thing I was going to say, Bob, just for everybody's, one more comment on Madawaska Shores, and then we have to get to phase 3, Bob. So that's coming to you next. Is I encourage Bob to have one of those waterfront lots as a common lot, where you could have some docks and some shared boats and maybe a pickleball court or whatever, And Bob said no. There's a public launch not far away. He's going to sell it. And I thought Bob was wrong, and I was right. Ask my wife again, and she'll tell you that that's a common thing with me, thinking I'm always right. Well, I'm not. Bob was right, and I was wrong. I'm going to tell you why, Bob. When I did the Dunrobin Lake subdivision, which was a beautiful subdivision, I kept the lake and the island for common area. I wanted the whole group to share it. So absolutely beautiful spring-fed lake and island, and I called a group meeting of all of the owners around the lake who have $1 million, $2 million, $3 million homes, and I said, look, I've set up, this community association to take ownership of the lake and the island. We develop some nice facilities on the island so we can have a picnic once a year. And one of the attendees at the meeting, his name was Raj. Raj says, well, how much is that going to cost us as homeowners here? And I said, about $100. And he said, $100 a month? No, I said, Raj, $100 a year. We've got 35 homes or whatever it is. We'll generate $3,500, pay the insurance, do the water testing a couple times a year, have lots of money left over for a nice barbecue, and if we ever need to do anything else. Well, all of these friggin' owners started to bellyache about having a common ownership and $100 a year. This guy lives in a $3.5 million home, and he couldn't pay $100 a year to own the lake in front of us. So, I have a bit of a temper sometimes, and I just said, this meeting is over. I'm keeping it. And I'm hellishly glad I did. I now own a beautiful lake and a beautiful island. I call it Windward Island, which I'm developing. And here we are 25 years later. So, Bob, the idea of common ownership is a good one in principle, but in practice, it didn't work worth a bean. So you were right and I was wrong.
Well, in the long run, it turned out, because that one area that we were looking at would have been difficult for putting a boat launch, where the other one already had a boat launch and it was convenient. So in the long run, it worked out. And that was an additional, $400,000 to the project. So
you were right, I was wrong.
Can't go wrong with that.
All right,
Okay,
so share your screen now.
All right. So going back to okay, so next thing we were looking at is this here, phase 2 and phase 3. So you can see that the hash mark part was phase 1, which is already complete. So phase 2 is from lots B1 to B9. And these lots, when they did the development, they said I could put a maximum of 30 lots. I wanted to put them here, but I said, well, okay, I could do those later. And so now phase 2, I'm doing some additional studies. I have to prove the water in this phase 2 and phase 3, which is the C lots. And I think a total of, instead of 10 studies or 8 studies, I only have to do about 4 studies. And so the studies will work for both lot phase 2 and phase 3. So that is a cost savings right there when the property is next to each other. And furthermore, I don't have to build a roadway So this is a no-brainer to go ahead with this phase 2, and I can just go ahead and do all the necessary surveying work, and then I can start pre-selling, and then when a draft approval comes through, I can sell the lots. Next is phase 3. So phase 3 is this here section, all these C lots. And I thought I had a very good plan, and we started doing the initial studies, and one is called the MDS, minimum distance separation. Some of you may have heard of it, some may not, but what it is when you're in a rural area, if there is a farmer in the area that has barns and has animals, that they have preference. You cannot disrupt them with your new development. And it just happened that right here, this one little area in the middle of these circles was in fact an old horse barn. Now, I went and talked to the neighbors. They told me that they don't have any animals. They're not planning on any animals. But when they learned that I'm doing a development, they said, well, we're not taking that barn down, and maybe in some future time, we may get a horse. So that stopped me right there, because when you have a minimum distance separation of, as you can see by this ring, so many meters away from that barn, you cannot put any residential structures or homes in that area because of the smell of manure or other things that people would complain about. So this right away put a stop to my plans, and you could see what would I do now when it took a big major chunk of phase 3. So I put this out as a question to the group. What could I do if I can't put residential homes in that zone?
That's an excellent question, Bob. Anybody got suggestions? You'll find out what Bob did after you had a moment to think about it.
Yeah. So
anybody got some ideas?
Would you do like a well, I don't even know if that would work. Like a, what do you call it? Like a berm, like a hill or something to give. I don't even know if that would work. Actually.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Like for noise, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately, you could maybe do some type of a berm or trees, but it doesn't stop odor.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that they found, that when new residents come in, and there's, particularly if there's a large dairy farm or pig farm, there's a lot of odor from all those animals.
The other thing they're worried about, Bob, is they're worried about well contamination as well.
Yeah, for sure.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
Bob,
true.
maybe you could do what they do at the dump, and they have it's like a perfume that they spray in the air, and that would take care of the smell. So that's one option. Oh, you're laughing. You already thought of that.
No, I never thought of that, but I've never heard that would change the regulation. It's a nice way that maybe could be done, but as Bruce says, it probably wouldn't stop the runoff from manure into those wells on the properties there.
So Bob, yeah, let's show the class what you decided to do.
This here is what was a potential thought that came from the planner. So the planner says, well, they can do the lots and make them long and skinny, and they could build a home where the numbers are, and people would just have a long, deep lot. And I thought, well, that's interesting. You could still do some development. It reduces the total number of lots. But then they said you could also create, as you see here, from lot 23 to 27, you could build some fourplex units, and that will increase the density. And then the other thought was that this roadway, instead of being a full road with what's called the county standards for the roadway, this could become a land condo roadway. And so what it would be is a private road. It would not have to meet the rigorous standards. It would still be paved, but be narrower, and it would be taken over as part of a land condominium, and that could be a lot less expensive to build that road. So that is some of the ideas that we took a look at, and then I discussed this again with Bruce, and Bruce says, what could even be further to make this as interesting development is to put a small little road here, and we're talking about an easement, and this easement would be right in between these two lot lines, and then along the back, and there would not be any homes here, but there could be workshops or some type of storage sheds. Some people may have wanting to put vehicles into storage, or maybe they want to have some type of a workshop to do different things. And by having an access roadway here that would be shared, they could access into the back part of the land and have this as an additional feature of the property. So that might further make those lots more appealing. And I believe that Bruce has seen from other areas where there is a requirement and people looking for larger lots where they can do workshops. And so that might be able to do it. And the other thing is that these are smaller lots, and potentially move these to the larger lots, move the condominiums back here, and that would give more room for parking and make it a little more amenable to those people for these larger structures.
So I'm going to interrupt you again, apologize, but I want to point out to the class, Alex, are you still there, Mr. DiNardo? Yeah, Alex,
Sure.
As an architect, and a tech guy, but if you notice, by putting constraint on this site, the plan that Bob has eventually landed on, which you're seeing here, not well drawn by me, but done to the best of my ability, might actually be better than the one that we had before, if you follow what I'm saying. And is it your experience, Alex, that when you put constraints on things, you think initially, at least I did, that it's a negative, but you can turn that into maybe a positive?
Yeah, I think that's across any discipline. Yeah, if you because it's programming, right? It's programmatic. It forces you to make a tighter program, because a blank paper is your biggest enemy, is you as a writer, but also as a designer. Like if you don't give me any programmatic elements, I'm like flailing around, like throwing pasta against a wall. Like, so yeah, that's true.
That's very, very well put. That's better expressed than I would have expressed it. So I want you all to think about this when a city or a county or state or province, whatever, imposes constraints on you. Your first reaction is, my first reaction is to say, to hell with you. But once you put your mind to it with this animation stuff we've been talking about now for months, I mean, imagine this, that sort of that thing, that easement, is just a driveway. It's just a laneway. And it'd just be gravel laneway. And the houses that buy in there, when they realize there's a laneway back there, so you could put your workshop there, or as Bob said, you could put a storage shed back there of some considerable size. That I think that this will actually be a better plan for Bob. And then of course moving it was Bob's idea, not mine, to add the fourplexes. And the only thing that I did and he did when we reviewed the plan together is we moved the fourplexes onto the bigger lots, and the smaller lots will just be singles. So this plan, I think, will actually produce a higher return. Karina and Dave, just sort of see where we're going here. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic plan, and it'll sell out. The one thing that Bob will find when he gets to the marketing side is that because it's a land condominium, where you're dividing up these lots as a part of a land condominium, people will have a hard time getting their mind around that. But once they do, it's very common in rural areas to see this, and certainly in the New England states, in Ontario and elsewhere. So I think it'll be an excellent plan. Any comments before we move on to the next presentation? Daniel, DiNardo, you're next. Any comments before we move on?
So those workshops have no services, right? There's just like there's no water or anything like that that you have
Yeah.
to worry about,
I imagine, like, first of all, you could put a well, and maybe the well could be shared with the same septic system. If you did it in your design, you could have like all the septic systems are in this here area. And so you could potentially connect. So you would be able to, and then maybe the same well could be shared with the property because it's on your own land.
So Bob is absolutely correct, Alex, that I don't have to tell you this, that a well which would be closer to the main road, you can pump water a long way. Water's cheap to connect. So Bob did it exactly right. The septics would be quote unquote in the backyard, so they would be relatively close to these workshops, and the well, you can pump that hundreds of feet if you have to.
Yeah, but
so I think
always
these workshops could be storage, in which case you don't need anything, but they could also be a real workshop with a bathroom in it, and like my barn dominium could have a million little micro workshops in there. You'd have a bathroom in there, you'd have a shower in there. I got everything in my barn.
The only thing is it can't be residential.
No, it won't be residential.
Yeah.
And Alex, I get asked all the time, and Bob as well, people just like Mr. Musk there, Elon Musk is getting into trouble. I get people all the time who ask me if they could use one of my workshops to live in, because people are so desperate. And I say no, because you've got people in there with workshops. I don't want people living right next to it because of the fire danger.
That's it. So just to finish up, Bruce.
Yep.
I think the lesson here for everyone is that sometimes you get some things that come out. A lot of people or a lot of developers may have walked away, but I think a developer has to have some flexibility. You have to have as well, you have to have determination, and if you use some creativity, you can find solutions so that things can go ahead. So
that's fantastic. And Karina and Dave are dying to ask you how much money you made on phase one.
To build phase one?
No, how much money did you make out of the whole thing? I know how much it costs and how much you made, but I can't share that.
Well, it's in excess of 1 million. It's between 1 to 2 million was made, and now I'm going to be able to use some of those funds towards building phase 2 and 3, and so those costs will be lower. So I could even do better.
When all is said and done, Bob will have made some millions of dollars from phase 1, 2, and 3.
And then Bob will fund all of our projects.
Bob, I wanted to ask you quickly, like I saw the economic impact that you had there. How did you come up with that number?
Well, what it is the cost of building. We're talking the building costs, so you could call that economic activity. You had to buy all the land, and you have to get the labor. And most of that is local. Almost all the builders are local builders and so on. So that is really just showing that that was the investments coming in. So economic activity.
But the economic activity for something like this is far, far greater. Bob pointed out there's the property taxes that goes to the township. There's also, of course, as Bob mentioned, the cost of construction. If there's 30 homes or 50 homes or however many, and they each cost $500,000, you can imagine. There's employment too, because a lot of people, Dave, will work from home now. Like this multi-generational thing. The implications are, if we actually did an economic study, just Madawaska Shores phase 1, 2, and 3 would be in the tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. I love that, Bob. So I'm going to steal that, Bob, and I'm going to put that in my presentation. It's I like those numbers.
It's important for people to see what this development can help the community. So
Perfect.
So I just got this from Ben. I had to show everybody.
Yes.
Everybody say hi to Zoe.
Hey,
there's little Zoe, my granddaughter.
Is she beautiful or what? Doesn't look anything like Bob.
Great.
She's a beauty, Bob.
She's almost a week old. Tomorrow she'll be a week old.
She's really beautiful. Just fantastic. One more thing. talking about the San Francisco situation and Elon Musk, Elon Musk sort of reminds me of Donald Trump. He doesn't sit around taking it in the ear from cities. Look at the tweet he sent out when San Francisco, went after him. Can you read it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he's got a dagger, that man. He twists the knife.
He says, so the city of San Francisco tax companies providing beds for tired employees instead of making sure kids are safe from fentanyl. Where are your priorities, you so-and-sos? And unfortunately, this little boy here died of a fentanyl overdose, a 10-month-old baby. So you got to, I mean, I know he's a very controversial figure, Mr. Musk, but you got to admire his guts. He's not afraid of taking on cities and towns and telling them what for. And I don't blame him. I'm frustrated too. I mean, it makes no sense to have 53% of our office buildings in North America are now vacant and not likely to fill up anytime soon. Daniel DiNardo, are you ready?
Indeed, I am.
All right, I'm going to make you co-host. We're way behind schedules for everybody.
I have to say, I'm impressed at the large scope of some of my colleagues' presentations here. We're going to bring it down in scale again.
Karina, you have a competitor now in Bob. Yeah. I thought Bob is neck and neck with you for the best presentation so far.
We're bringing it down back to a single kind of residential neighborhood thing. So we entitled this Woodroffe Hideaway. I'll thank my brother for providing some nice sketches for us today. So we're looking at kind of an aerial shot of a semi-detached house on Woodroffe Avenue here. This is the street view. Basically, my brother and I grew up here. It's a house in the family. You can see the lot size is about 60 by 120 feet. The house, of course, is 45 feet wide by 38 with a couple garages in the back. So that's the current state of things. The neighborhood is in Ottawa's West End. We got Carlingwood Mall. Some footsteps away, we have the Lincoln Fields Transit Station and a nice Queensway entrance here at Woodroffe Avenue. Over here. And again, that's the satellite shot. Okay, the aerial shot. Oops. Okay, so for our considerations of highest and best use determination, again, it was in the family a long time. The zoning is an R2G, so again, allowing for detached duplex, linked detached, long semi-detached, height currently limited to 8 meters. So apparently the 3-story construction is not allowed, but we'll see that things are going a bit nuts in the neighborhood. So the neighborhood is becoming denser. With lots of zoning amendments to allow larger infills with more units. So the target market is for rentals, people who are okay living on a busier street. And again, we have the shopping mall, great highway access, and enough space for a business in the home. So again, for highest and best use determination, we look around us and see, across from, you know the area, across from D. Roy Kennedy School, they have already done something like this to one of the lots with a couple of, I guess, duplexes and this 3-unit building in the back. So far in excess of what you'd think the zoning would be. So they already approved that. Across the street from our location, we already have these 2 long semis, so front back, so 4 units in each, 2 on top, and then 2 basement apartments, of course, and the mirror. And then also up the street, something similar with this was a lot, and the funny thing is exactly the same dimensions as ours, 60 by 120 feet. So the precedent is actually there on the same side. So I'll have to say initially I was biased towards, that we can do a kind of a carbon copy of this, and we'll talk about maybe why that isn't the best or a necessary solution for us. And again, okay, just to show you that, yeah, they're selling 1/2 of this, and look, it's a 3-story building. That's interesting. Wow. So that maybe there's a possibility to go up, but we haven't even really considered that until recently. So 700,000 they're asking for this semi-detached. I don't know if they'll get it, but nice to know they're ambitious. Okay, so we consider three proposals. Number one, and we'll look at the numbers, is going to require some external financing. This is me being influenced by the putting of two long semis on the property. So basically looking at an eightplex. Option two, probably feasible without external financing. Basically keeping the original building and then adding a couple coach houses in the back. And you're going to see, I'm going to call them bungalows because we're exceeding the definition of coach houses here. And then a third option is to actually do some extensive renovations to the original house and add the coach houses. So we're talking about having these walk down basement suites to get some more light down there, as Bruce has given us some nice ideas. So again, what animations do we look at? These basement walkout apartments. So that's, of course, where you have the nice kind of sloping staircase down, or to let the extra light down there. So we can have either apartments or commercial space potentially. We could look at a micro suite per unit, although it didn't cost it. Could look at storage sheds and the coach houses. So we're focusing basically on these basement apartments and coach houses for now. So just to look at the proposal number one, these two large block buildings. So this is already now, I'm going on the fact that the people up the street have already done this. I'm assuming we can do the same. This is where we have the two long semis in the place of the current house. So the current house is here. You demolish the house. You have a single laneway and with some parking in the back. My brother has a nice sketch here with a nice walk down staircase to give us the light down there. So yes, we're looking at the two detached houses based in gigaplex design. And the whole point is that you have 4 units, 2 upper, so 1 unit here, 2 floors, and the same in the back, and then 2 basements. What do we look at? I'll show you the spreadsheet. We're actually assuming a purchase price of 200,000. How did I get that? Because basically it's in the family. My brother and I will be taking it over, so we're lucky. Indeed, this is the estimated amount of the what I would figure to be the capital gains taxes on the property once we took ownership. I did estimate a grand total cost at around, let's say, well, it's in excess of 2 million, which gives us a cap rate of 6.13 based on some projected rental income, which is a fail, with an IRR of 22.2, which is, if we're aiming for 24, also slightly a fail, but we'll get better, don't worry. I'll just give you a quick look at what I considered. I considered basically a 250 a square foot, having these 4 upper 1,200 square foot apartments and 4 lower 600 square foot. So by the time you add in all the extra costs, let's say a ballpark would be this, considering the original 200. For rental, I figured for the upper units, hopefully we could grab 2,800 per, and the basement at 1,600. So we can always quibble about if we can do better than that, but this basically gives us our 6.13% cap with a decent rental income. But again, we're looking at the cap rate as we learn in the course. And then the IRR being 22.2 in this case.
So Daniel, I think you're right about the cap rate not meeting our current test of 8%, but internal rates of return between 22 and 24%, I think are actually very good. And
okay.
So I think yes, it fails on cap rate, but if you just scroll down again to your internal rate of return, to me, that's how I would look at it now that I'm thinking about Lifecycle ROI. Because the internal rate of return doesn't just look at your immediate cash flow, it looks at all the things that we've talked about: capital appreciation over the lifespan, mortgage pay down, as well as cash flow. So, you know, if I told you you could put your money in the bank and get 22% a year, you probably would take it.
Yes, indeed. So another thing to keep in mind, though, of course, is we'll need to get financing, and we're actually tearing down in this scenario the original house, so that might make that a bit more difficult for us to do it independently, let's say, if we want to be independent of others. So I like to keep that in mind. The number's a bit daunting from that perspective. Now let's go on. Again, my brother has a nice couple of drawings here of these coach houses in the back. So
I just love Alex's sketches. I just love.
Very nice. So he's got a nice staircase here, some area in front, but ultimately we'll see what happens. But the point is here, let's say we didn't want to tear that house down and we just wanted to build a couple of coach houses, and these are no longer coach houses, because I'm actually projecting 550 square feet per floor, which actually exceeds the guideline of 40% of the footprint of the original property, which apparently is the thing if you want to call it a coach house. So these are now kind of bungalows.
Daniel,
Yes.
how big is the footprint of the building?
What did I say? The footprint
of the coach house.
Oh, the coach house. I measured it at 22 by 25 feet. So that's bigger than the building, which is the half building.
No, just go back, if you don't mind, to the picture. So you're saying the footprint of the coach house is about 500 square feet?
Yes, I was projecting for 550 with this scenario.
550 square feet, okay.
Yes.
And the way that the coach house bylaw is written in Ottawa is that it can't exceed 40% of the backyard. How big is your backyard?
Wait, is it the backyard? I thought it's 40% of the actual house on which the coach houses sit.
There's a number of tests.
Oh, okay.
Is it can't exceed 40% of the backyard of the house. How big is the backyard of the house?
Let's eyeball it here. How big is the backyard? The backyard would be, again, so at 60 wide by let's say it's 10, 40. Let's say it's 60 plus feet.
So 60 by 60?
Yeah, it's bigger than that, but let's say 60 by 70
so
then.
60 by 60 is 3,600 square feet. Times 0.4 means you could build a 1,440 square foot coach house.
Okay,
so,
two separate ones, basically.
Well, we'll come back to that. So the coach house has to meet three tests: 40% of the backyard, not more than 40% of the backyard, 40% of the developed space of the main house, and not bigger than 865 square feet. So I suspect that you probably will be okay, because I would not include the downstairs. Like the downstairs, I would just, as you know, I would put a building permit in.
Yeah.
And I would just show it as unfinished space.
So yeah, we do count on having the top and bottom floor fully kind of finished,
Right,
and with a nice
opening.
I
can't coach you on that, but I can tell you what I would do. I would just show it as unfinished space. The moment the building inspector and I got my occupancy goes away, I might find a way to develop that space.
Right. Yeah, we have a hand.
That's me. I have a question about your 40%. Is it your gross floor area? Because we're in London, we have the 40% rule as well. But you can include the basement as long as it's over 6'5". So you would have, because your semis are 2 stories, right? So you would get the square footage of all 3 floors and get
interesting
40% of that. So we're allowed to the basement.
I just have this City of Ottawa document that I can share after for the Ottawa people, but I'll do that after. That's what I looked at. I only quickly looked at it. So
it's if you ask 3 planners at the City of Ottawa the same question, Paula, you'll get 3 different answers. So we build a number of coach houses, and we maintain as 40% of the developed area of the main house. Some planners will accept that, and some planners will say, no, it's 40% of the footprint of the main house, which is different.
But I am assuming we can do more because of this thing that I showed you earlier.
I would suspect
the next block over.
I completely agree.
So even here, here I'm talking about coach houses. I was actually thinking, oh, what if we just built another like semi-detached, smaller house in the back,
For sure.
And that would be anyway. So anyway, this one keeps the original house. We got 2 lanes, which isn't really taking advantage of the space. And then I think we can fit a couple cars back there. I'm not sure we can fit 3 on each side, so 2 per side. So we need to demolish the garage, which is this outline, and replace with some kind of other parking. The point is here, I ran some new numbers. Again, the project grand total cost is much less daunting. I could see, let's say my brother and I actually funding this, well, with a mortgage, of course, on the original property without needing external help, which is nice. Cap rates approaching our 8% at 7.5. The IRR is pretty good at 28%.
That's fantastic.
So I can show you again this spreadsheet just to show that we don't touch the original house. I do some minor renos because we have to modernize that thing. So what did I say? we have a 2-floor because including the basement and the main floor, it's 550 square feet. Hopefully we can do it for, you know, 500,000 to 600,000. And then we're also talking about some renovations. Of course, we got to do some demolition and so on. So again, I'm not overly certain about these construction costs, but I think we're getting in the realm of pretty good pretty good returns
I
here.
apologize, Daniel, to stop you again. Jake and Paula, can you comment on this? Look at coach house number 1, $275,000, 550 square feet, 2 floors. So can you click on cell? Just click on cell, Daniel, B9. Just click on
B9.
B9.
Yes.
Okay, and that equals, that's what I thought. So Jake and Paula, would you agree with me that it costs, say, $250 a square foot, but not $250 a square foot for the basement?
That's correct. Yeah, that's a pretty accurate thing. I find that the smaller the structure, like the 550, the higher the square footage. Like you could probably build a house, like a whole house on average for 250, but as you get smaller, it goes up a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, the basement's already there, right? So you're just going to need to frame and
So
all your.
No, we need to build these from scratch for coach houses.
Or sorry, I mean like when you build it, like the basement is cheaper.
Got foundation, yeah.
Yeah, the basement will be cheaper to finish for you.
Sorry. So, Daniel, can you try this? Can you change the $250 to $300? Okay.
300.
300. And then,
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fine. And then go click on, and then next to the 300. So in I9,
Yes.
can you put in $125?
Okay.
All right. And that's the next one will be 125 too. The one down there. Yeah. Okay. So now let's calculate the cost, right? Go back into B9.
I will say one other thing too. I think you can save some costs on your garage demo and parking. I don't think it'd be that high. You could knock down both garages for probably 20, and then you just gotta pave. We just knocked the whole house down for just over 20.
Yeah. So just go. So here, Daniel, go equals.
Yes.
Goes equals, and then you go 550 times 300.
Okay, 300. Yeah.
550 times 300. And then you go 550 times 120, and then you add 550 times 125.
Okay, sorry. So it's 550 times 300
times
plus.
300, then you put the plus sign in there, and then 550 again times 125.
This. Right.
And hit that. All right, and do the same thing down below.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what does that look at? What it does to your cap rate?
Yeah, and then we got to drop this down, from my understanding.
And then let's go with 20,000 there.
Well, to pave though as well.
How much was the paving, Jake?
I would say like to knock it down and pave, just do like 35 would be
35,000. All right,
yeah.
Put that in there and look at your cap rate again. What does the cap rate? Is it 8.8 or 8? I can't see it.
8.9 basically.
Wow. So you understand where we're coming from, Daniel?
Yeah, no, that's very good.
Once you have to put your footing and foundation in, even if you only have 1 floor, and you basically get, quote, a free basement. The reason I put $125 a square foot for the basement, it's not free, is that you have to fit it up, right? Eventually you'll put something in there. So
yeah,
used to be, I used to be able to do a basement apartment for, $90 a square foot, but today it's probably closer to 125.
Okay, we will have to spend some money on some renos of the main house, but I think we're getting some good numbers. I did anticipate, so the original units as they are now, getting 2,200, and then with the new coach houses also, since they're going to be modern, getting 2,200. I'm not sure if that's being overly optimistic.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We've talked about it throughout the course. Canada is now outpacing the United States in terms of population growth by quite a margin. And people on the left coast and the right coast are joining Canada. We used to have a brain drain Canada to the United States. It has reversed, and we are accepting 400,000 immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
So rents are going to go one way, I think, at least in the next decade, up. All right, can you wrap it up for us, Daniel? This was a fantastic presentation.
Let's do the last one. So there was a scenario where we additionally, and this could be phase 3, right? So I call it concept 3, but it's basically concept 2 with phase 3, where we actually do some larger renos on the main house. So again, we agree that these can be actually a semi-detached, because I actually thought, oh, we can put some parking lots next to these buildings, because I'm kind of worried about parking. Being on Woodroffe, people are going to want to have a car, so could put those there. But the point is that we would here we talk about really refitting the upper levels of the house, and potentially, and this is where the people can tell me if this is crazy, making a bigger basement with these walkouts. So some carved out space here to get the light in, and even, let's say, remove the staircase from the inside and move it, you know, to get a larger basement. So that's what we're looking at, again, without the adjustments we just made for the coach houses. We're looking at this kind of cost, which probably will be less now from what we saw before, which even those higher ones got us to 8.24 and an IRR of 31%. And again, we can look one last time. This is the last thing we can do. Look at the sheet, which we agree is now in need of an update. So I need to update. What was that again? I should probably just write them in there. No, we can do it later. But the point was that, yeah, we're talking about having these extensive renos, and I just plucked this out of the air, to be honest, because we wanted to make massive upgrades, like all new kitchens, bathrooms, rear balconies, and then even potentially digging down the basement. So if someone has some input on how much making another foot of basement would cost, that would be welcome. Ballpark.
Like to add it,
like dig a foot down.
Yeah, you'd probably be like 80 to 100 for your both sides.
Yeah,
like
okay. And then with I think a kitchen is probably what these days, 30 grand at least, 40.
No, you can do kitchens for nothing.
Oh, really? Okay.
So 8 and 12.
Sorry, to dig, how much he said to dig the basement? 80 per square foot, or 80?
I just ballpark like $80,000 to $100,000 to do that job, depending on the size.
Okay.
Yeah, Jessica, a client of mine did one. I think I showed you guys the spy loft. Do you remember that video? Did I show
Yes, the subterraneous. Was it the subterraneous in London?
Yeah, the subterranean one. Do you guys remember that? The spy loft, where my client dug a meter? That cost him 80 grand.
So just to come back then, the one thing I like about this is we talked about the earlier rebuild in total, which had that daunting kind of $2+ million price tag. This one I can kind of say, we're not touching the original house. We can mortgage it. It's doable by us, you know. So I like this. I think this might be our home run.
I really am impressed, Daniel. If you think about where we were, you and me and Alex, a month or a month and a half ago on this project, we were nowhere. I really like this presentation. Alex, would you be okay sharing your beautiful drawings with the class?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So if you don't mind, I
don't want to rough sketches, to be honest, but
I just love them because, you know, I learned a new term from you, as you know, the walk down apartment, and I see them. I mean, you've done them in virtually everything. One more thing, Daniel, as you know, we talked about, you and me and Alex, is that if you want a bigger basement, you can go out to the property line as long as you're under the grade, right? And a lot of people are doing that, and they're putting glass block in so that they bring light or light pipes in, and they get nice light in there. So if you wanted to expand your basement, you certainly can do that. But these sketches, Alex, I've known you for a long time. You're so modest, but I mean, is it just me, or do these sketches not just give you guys it's a work of art?
I love it.
I thought you might, Paula. So if you feel comfortable, boys, share the sketches with the class, and we'll all remember these for a long time. So this was a really great presentation. And Daniel, finally, you came up with a viable plan. I wasn't sure you could do it, and you did. Tremendous. And when you sharpen up those numbers, you know, you've got Jake and Paula's email address. They are developers. They are builders. They're constructors.
That's very
and do you remember Aaron Markle, who came to and gave us a lecture? He has volunteered to look at floor plans and budgets as well. And you remember he did a sixplex for $1 million that if I did, it probably cost 2 million.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got a lot
That
of
sounds really
resources.
great.
This is
Yeah,
fantastic.
feel free to reach out to us. We're always open to. I love this stuff. This is a super cool project. So yeah, if I can help in any way, feel free.
That'd
to
be
reach out.
great. Okay.
Yeah, very cool.
Thank you.
This is
Thanks for
really
the
great.
feedback.
All right. Anything else, Daniel?
No, I mean, oh, my brother has something to
No,
say.
I was going to say the comment that you always see these coach houses, it's like, the concept of a granny flat, sitting on a driveway and so on. And that's not the case. So if like Bruce, you taught us that we could go down and make a perfectly livable space under that unit.
And
that's great.
I'll tell you guys, it is a home run. I think Daniel's right. Your brother's right, Alex. This is really great. Like I said,
I'm leaning towards a new semi in the back. I don't know.
Whatever, but I mean, you definitely have mastered all the skills that we've been working on over the last few months. I mean, that's really impressive. I'm really, you just made my day. All right, we got to go to Jake and Paula. We're going to hear about Agritainment. So I'm going to make Jake and Paula co-host now. And by the way, if anybody has any questions about how to run an Airbnb, we got the Airbnb goddess here, and of course Karina too.
Not me. I don't know anything.
No,
I will be reaching out to Paula because we definitely need help on our Airbnb. But
hey, you guys
no problem.
You know what, Karina? That's a very strong point. Paula is advising me and Dawn how to do better, and we have really benefited. It's not just how to run it; it's also how to price it, how to change pricing depending on occupancy, and how to fish where the fish are. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Paula is a friggin' genius. Okay, Paula, over to you.
I didn't create any of this. I've just done a ton of research and trial and error to figure out what works. So
all right, you guys are the co-host now.
All right.
okay.
Daniel, great job. Really, I mean,
a lot of windows open, guys. Sorry. The Safari
desktop.
But so ours is a little bit different. I will say this is actually I noticed up until
We're not
now.
sharing yet. Sorry.
Up until now, everyone's
got 100 windows.
presented projects that they already own. This is actually more of a case study that we did on a possible project that we were interested in.
Well, we're actively looking for
something
that
like this.
fits the bill.
Sorry, guys. But yeah, I just want to say too, this has been great. I could listen to these presentations and talk all day. So it's been super cool to hear everyone's thing. And yeah, I'll let Paula start with ours.
Okay, so
everyone can see okay, Bruce? Yeah, okay.
So yeah, this is a property that we are actively looking for in we're looking in Florida for this, but yeah, we don't know anything yet. It is kind of a unique property with unique zoning that we're looking for. So just kind of what we're going to go over. So our vision for the property, the type of zoning and the type of land that we need to look for, the farming aspect, cabins and common areas, the experience, and then the numbers. So I'll do this part. Jake.
Yeah, this all kind of started as a vision, like a business plan type vision of Paula. So I'll let her go through that.
I can kind of, so I will briefly touch on how it started.
Yeah.
So I kind of had like a tinfoil hat moment with all the changes and everything happening in the world. And I was like, you know what, I need to find somewhere that I can take my family, that we can grow our own food and we can live, without the assistance of anyone. We can completely off grid. And, I need space for this, but at the same time, I'm not about to go buy a chunk of land and have it, sit there as a, just in case and not have it make money. So what we need is something that will work two ways. It can work for that concept if ever needed. And then it can also work as, a great business plan. And, and if the time comes that we need it for our family, no one's coming for tourism at that point, if that's the case. So we'll take it over at that point. So kind of the idea that we had, and it was based on, I would say, a need or something that we felt that we would benefit from. We wanted to provide a place for high achieving individuals to come reconnect with nature, just and kind of like a choose your own adventure type of thing. You can come and participate in activities, like yoga, farming, I'll get into more of the details of what we kind of plan to have there, but like we want to have like a library there, indoor outdoor gym, like meditation, saunas, like the cold tubs, just all these, you know, health benefit things that you can choose to participate in. Or if you're looking to just go somewhere to a cabin in the middle of nowhere to journal or to write or to be alone, you can do that too. So you don't have to participate, or you can participate as much or as little as you want to. So where we're looking is this is let Jake talk about this. This is more his domain. So
yeah, in kind of, so we're living in like Fort Myers, Cape Coral area in Florida. We like that area. We're kind of looking in that area. Has to be close to a major airport. The major airport here is the airport in Fort Myers. So we're looking kind of within a 60-minute drive of the Fort Myers airport.
60 to 90. Bruce said 90s. Okay.
Yeah, 60 to 90. And we initially thought maybe 5 acres, but we're actually looking for upwards of 10 acres, agriculturally zoned land. And so there will be, so the agricultural land here in Lee County does have a provision for agritourism, which you can see here in the slide deck. I think going forward with sharing our plans for the property, I don't think it'll be as like easy as maybe it is when you see what we have planned for the property. There might be some gray area with the residential aspect of the plan. So the farming aspect, it kind of comes from not only Paula's like tinfoil hat, but just we've always had an interest in this. We actually had a small hobby farm a few years back, I guess more than a few years back now. But the farm would be sustainable, permaculture orchard, and all organic grown vegetables and fruit, and also some animals, chickens for sure. We had pigs before too. I liked having pigs, but
I'm not a pig.
It's a lot of work.
To have pigs. They're just
no pigs. Yeah,
too
they're
much
cool, though.
work
And delicious. They're delicious though. But chickens for sure.
Chickens for eggs and for meat, and basically anything that we have on the farm has to provide value. We're not having, you know, pets. This is like
we the pigs we ended up eating those, but yeah, you could have like goats and stuff that we don't want to have pets. It's basically that cost money kind of thing. Accommodations, I'll let Paula take it off from here. She's more in charge of this sort of thing.
So I basically picture little accessory dwelling units that will have, you know, fully equipped kitchenettes, a full bathroom. They do have to have the capability of being off grid. Like as it runs as a resort, like I'm okay with, you know, having power and all that stuff, but I just want to have the capability of we have the ability to go off grid. So we would set
not to
that
go
up
off on a side thing too, but off grid's pretty cool too, just with everything going on, to be able to be self-sufficient, self-sustainable with whether it be solar, eco toilets and all that sort of thing is pretty cool. But that's just a side thing on that.
Yeah, so for the cabins, like I actually picture something similar to that. It's just a picture I found on Pinterest. But they have to be small, functional. I want tons of window for lots of natural sunlight. We're in Florida, like vitamin D. Like I said, the fully equipped kitchens and bathrooms, and an emphasis on comfort and relaxation. Let's see here. Yeah, like I want to have, you know, like personal development books on in each cabin, notepads for, you know, your thoughts and your ideas. And we've thought about having, you know, like individual hot tubs, although when you go off grid, that kind of like is conflicting, but we'll figure that out as we go.
Yeah, and each cabin will kind of be like on the property spaced out enough that you have a little bit of privacy.
Oh, Jake, Paul, we ran into a company recently that have wood-fired hot tubs.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, and they're all natural wood, and it's like a little fire, and the fire heats the hot tub, and it's good for about 4 or 5 uses.
Okay,
oh, nice.
I'm gonna write that down.
Super cool. Is that out of Canada?
Hey, Dave, can you circulate that to everybody?
Okay.
Because
I'm gonna get Karina to do that because she's the finder of lost things. But,
yeah.
C, can you circulate that to everybody, Karina?
A friend of mine has one. I've sat in one. They're really nice.
Okay, that's awesome.
The issue is
Okay.
just the water. Like he actually filled it with lake water, believe it or not, right from the cottage. And you could drain it into the lake.
That's
That's
fine.
awesome.
It's
the reason I-
actually, oh, sorry, Bruce, it's actually Bunky Life.
Yeah,
Oh, they
I
have it.
can't wait to see it because, as you know, I'm
Yeah.
developing a 10-acre site on the Skeety Island, and I would like to have a wood-fired whatever, because I got plenty of trees, Paula, plenty of wood. I got lots and lots of fuel for the rest of my life, and then some. So,
Yeah.
this
And they do
is
sonnets as
fantastic.
well.
What's
They do
that?
sonnets as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if they do saunas as well. So, Karine, if you can circulate that to everybody, that'll be a huge thing. Just to interrupt you for a second, Jacob, Paula, I wanted to show you something. I'm gonna boot you off.
Yeah, no worries.
You said something really cool, which was choose your own adventure. And
Yeah, I think I said that.
Yeah.
well, somebody said it.
It was
Paula
me.
said it, yeah.
And so Jake said it. Okay, you get all the credit, but
Yeah, right.
This is all Jake. I just say
yeah,
it.
right. But what I'm saying to you is that should be your tagline. Can I show you why?
Yep.
All right. This is a student of mine. His name is Ryan North. Ryan North is a world famous author. He started off in my classes, it's got to be 20 years ago. He's a tech guy. And he started a day-to-day cartoon strip called quants.com, a domain that he got from me. It's a dinosaur comic. And because everybody in my class had to start a business. And I said, Ryan, I thought you were a tech guy. Can you draw? He said, not a lick. So he developed this comic strip with 6 panels of dinosaurs, and they never change. The only thing that changes every day is the dialogue. And when you first see it, you think, oh my God, it's crazy. I'll show you quants.com. So this is Dinosaur Comics. And he started this in my class. He won the business model competition, and his cost for starting this comic strip was a negative cost. He won $500, first place in the competition, and his cost for buying the clip art and everything else was very, very little money. So he started it for a negative amount of money. It has become a huge hit. Hundreds of thousands of people go there every day to read it. And the first time you read it, you won't think much of it. But when you see the interplay between these 3 dinosaurs, the big T-Rex is the male chauvinist pig. The female dinosaurs, this one and this one, are warm and wise and loving. And you get, there's this interplay between these 3 dinosaurs. So he started a project. Let's see if I can get to it. Oh, I have to move this. Where he's a tech guy. He started to become, he's world famous. He goes to Comic-Con. He's 6'8", which helps, and very handsome. He's mobbed, right? So he started this thing, and it was a very early project on Kickstarter. Everybody knows Kickstarter, right? Mm-hmm. And he started a choose your own adventure version of Hamlet. And he decided he was going to raise $20,000 on Kickstarter, but he failed. Instead of raising $20,000, he raised $580,905 US dollars on his goal. You can see underneath here of 20 grand. He got 15,352 people who backed him. And this was the #1 publishing startup on Kickstarter for years and years and years. It was an incredible success. He's worth millions and millions and millions of dollars today. But the reason I wanted to show you that is just to show you how powerful the idea of choose your own path adventure is. So when you come to Paula and Jake's place in Florida, and you've got all of this stuff that I wasn't really convinced that you were on the right track by having so many different things. But as soon as one of the 2 of you said, choose your own adventure, I know that's successful. That is your tagline. So you can go there. You could be the yoga meister. You could be the sweat lodge meister. You could be learning how to grow, your backyard homestead. I don't know. All of those things will work as long, in my opinion, as you bill it as choose your own adventure. That will be huge for you. Imagine that he tried to raise 20 grand, and it failed. He raised almost 600,000 instead. It was incredible. And it was so much fun to see it. I was there when it was happening. Every day I would look at it and go, oh my God, this is amazing.
Absolutely.
And it really put him on the map.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, back to you guys.
All right, let's share.
Just gonna load it up here. Yeah, so we'll kind of zoom through this. We do have this is obviously just a concept, so we do have some things to work through, but why don't you talk about the shared space?
So I envision like a big kind of like open air pavilion. Obviously in Florida and in trees, it would need to be screened in, but this could be used for, you know, your outdoor dining. I would want to have like a commercial kitchen attached to this so that we can provide meals. And our meals would be coming from our farm or local. Like we would be sticking to that and organic, because our concept here is for health. So like not just physical health, but mental health. And that's kind of our focus. And then, yeah, I mentioned like having all these things. I guess I basically just want to be able to provide something that everyone would want to use, or you can, you know, use it or not use it. But I want to be able to attract as many people as possible. And then, you know, you kind of come and if you want to just sit and read in a hammock for, you know, 2 or 3 days, you can do that. If you wanted to, you know, go to a fire pit and, you know, network or talk to other people, you can, and just basically we'll provide everything that you need, and you can come and do what you think you need to improve your health.
All right. So the experience, Paul and I have benefited a lot from networking and masterminds. So we want to incorporate a bit of that, which you'll see in our numbers. But why don't you talk a little bit about the experience?
Well, maybe you talk about it now.
No, I'm the segue guy. I throw it to you.
Yeah, okay. So I don't want to just sit here and read the slides.
Yeah.
But basically we want to have people. We want to be able to have. We're working out the kinks, but like we want to be able to have this place where we can also, you know, close it down for a span of 3 or 4 days and host these like mastermind retreats. So these would be more, you know, focused onto like a specific topic, and we'd have guest speakers. We would have like, yeah, we would, I don't even know. You go.
No, yeah. So yeah, we'll get.
Yeah,
I'm gonna skip forward.
Bruce wants to say something.
Yeah, sure.
So Jake, maybe next year, instead of booking in Merida, I can book at your place.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes, exactly. So something like that, right? Like, so, and then we could rent it out too. Like we could rent it out to groups that want to host their own masterminds. And I feel like we're kind of like scattered with ideas.
We are.
I know we will narrow it down and get it under control.
Yeah. So
eventually, but
from now, the original vision was kind of the 12 cabins, you know, rented out 70% occupancy, and then the other 30% of the time we could host mastermind retreats. So here I'll run through the numbers quick.
we also wanted to do like a phase 1 and a phase 2.
Yes.
So like phase 1 is
6 cabins to start, and then if that's successful, go to 12. So based on our research, we should be able to acquire the 10 acres for $550,000 or less. Closing illegals, $20,000, land clearing and servicing, $200,000. The 6 cabins, we budgeted $660,000, $75,000 for the startup of the farm, common area, $500,000, and carrying for all that stuff. So we're at about 2.1 million to get us off the ground. This is I'm just trying to see, sorry.
This
these
is
numbers.
6 cabins.
Oh yeah, 6. Is that nightly? Sorry.
Yeah, nightly rate per cabin.
Is that for? Yes. So all the meals are included and stuff like that. So this is the nightly rate per cabin that we, based off our research, $895 per cabin, 70% occupancy. So the gross annual income almost 1.4 million. Operating expenses of 55,000. I said ARV, but the value at a 12% cap rate would be 5.1 million. Based on 55% loan to value and 8.5% interest for 30 years, we would take $425,000 out, tax free, and cash flow would be $29,000 a month. And then here's the numbers, kind of same idea, but if we did the 12 cabins.
Wow! Look at the cash flow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's a lot of room for error, I guess, in a way, right? To get that.
And like the nightly rate that we're basing our nightly rate on other, like there are some
similar
resorts and stuff like that in the area that are charging even more than this. So we kind of like dropped it down a little bit. We use 70% occupancy. And then
Yeah, so there's some room
yeah.
there. So this is based on that
This is
70% occupancy
fantastic.
of the cabins, and then doing 4 special events, the
the four
mastermind retreats a year, and that would be us hosting them, but we factored in paying someone to do that, obviously. The 4 events, income of 355,000, and then the cash flow from the other 70% of the year brings the cash flow up to $1 million a year. And the cash out refi, if we did all 12 cabins at once based on the same loan to value and interest rate, would be 1.6. This is kind of the retreat, called it the retreat overlay. So having the retreats on top of just the normal resort. So it's based on 4 days, 3 nights, and 4 events a year. So we could accommodate 12 cabins on site, but we would also offer 12 spaces to people that didn't stay on site, so somewhat close. So it'd be $9,000 per cabin. And then the offsite would be, so we priced the offsite because you wouldn't want to price the offsite close to what it would be on site, so people would want to go on site and not just sign up for offsite. So there's the incomes there, 119 and 107. So expenses for these, we budgeted it in 30,000 for a keynote speaker, 30,000 for additional speakers, planner and event coordinator per event, 20,000, food 20,000, chef 6,000, cleaning 3,000, and miscellaneous just 10,000. And that's where we got our numbers from. Sorry if that was confusing. Kind of ran through that real quick. I didn't want to take up too many people's time.
Well, you missed, we'll talk about this. So like here, 1 second. I'll go back to it for a second. At the top here. So we figure like a gross income of 200, almost 230 per event. And then our operating costs, which are all tallied up down here per event. And then this is the potential profit at 20, if we sold out at 24 guests. And we did try to factor too, like, I mean, if you are like, if Jake and I were going, you know, we don't have to pay 20,000. It would be like maybe a 50% reduction in price for the second person to come, so that we could come and share a cabin together. So that's one thing with husband and wife working together, like going to masterminds together. It's like, oh, the mastermind, oh, it's only, you know, like this, it's not terrible. And then it's like, oh, but ×2. So we like it when people offer for spouses to get, you know, a bit of a discount.
Yeah. So I just want to thank everyone for listening. We obviously have some things to work out on that, but this was just something that a vision of Paula's and something that I kind of tagged along with and really liked, and kind of a detour from our regular business and something that we can branch out into. So something we're looking at.
It was fantastic. I mean, I'm coming back to you in a second, Bob. Paula and Jake, you're familiar with Whispering Springs?
Where's this one?
It's the one you shared with us. We've looked at a bunch in our research. I'm not sure if we've seen
So
this one.
this is Whispering Springs. I think they have 25 glamping sites. You remember the tree houses I think I showed you guys?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember that? These guys have the tree houses. So the numbers that you shared with me, you know, where with just 12 cabins, you can make, you know, $50,000, $60,000 a month in cash flow. You know, people might say, well, that's impossible. I can tell you Whispering Springs only operates from May, because it's Canada, May until September, and they make a boatload of money. I won't give away the numbers because that's private, but those numbers are not out of line. And the one thing about Florida is you can operate all year round.
And that's the thing, because we were considering like Northern Ontario and then as well as Florida, but Florida, you just get that, you can just boost your occupancy.
Yeah.
So
And it's incredible. And Paula, you have the skills to run this. I know you do. Did you notice Chris Hogan's arm in the video that Bob and I showed? Did you notice his arms were covered with mosquito bites?
Oh no.
Did you notice it, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other advantage of Florida is it's not quite so buggy. Well, different types of bugs, but you're not going to be overrun by mosquitoes.
Yeah. So I would say the one thing that just to try and end this off is, you know, it's a decent amount of capital to get going. And I guess the concern going into it for me would be if that business doesn't thrive, what can you do to kind of mitigate? And that would be something that we'll look at.
Yeah,
Like, you spend all this money, can you rent
I
it
think,
out?
you know, when we're in Merida together, Ruben and Mary Lou are coming as well. Ruben Ugarte and Mary Lou Aguilar bought site 17, which is next to mine, site 16 on Lasqueti, Lasqueti Island, which it's not like Florida weather, but you know, it's 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees Celsius in the winter, and it's 25 to 30 degrees in the summer. So it's a lot different than London, Ontario, or certainly Ottawa. But Ruben and Mary Lou have exactly the same question that you have, which is what are some of the different ways of operating these businesses if, for example, Paula, the world does go to hell? Like, who knows in the next, you're much younger than me, in the next 40 years, what's going to happen to climate? Who knows what's going to happen to supply chains? Are we going to have another world war with some crazy people running Russia and maybe China too? No one knows. And don't forget North Korea and Iran. You know, you're right to ask those questions, especially for your children and grandchildren. Now, you don't have grandchildren yet, but I do. And that's why I'm developing Lasqueti. And we're going to have a number of different models, including one which is kind of the end of the world model.
Cool. Well, maybe we could talk about that on our next call.
And we're going to talk about that.
And then when we saw that it was,
we're going to talk about that.
like,
So, Bob, you had a question, please?
Yeah, just one question. Maybe you didn't hear it, but you're in Florida, and I'm just wondering about cooling the cabins and heating.
Great.
Do you have a plan for that?
Yes.
Split unit, ductless split.
Is it electrical?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not a lot of gas down here, not natural gas, and very few people run propane. So basically, heating and cooling is all.
I just heard about these new German systems. They have heat pumps, and they operate off solar panels.
Oh, cool.
And I was, they use Florida, you'll have all this solar work, solar availability. And if you can get a backup battery and just operate a heat pump,
awesome.
It'll cool and heat.
So Bob, can you send that to the class as well?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, because I know not just Jake and Paula, you know, I'm using unpaid researchers here. You're part of that group, and Karina is part of that group. No, that's really helpful. Solar powered, really heating and cooling units. That would be awesome. I'll use them on Lasqueti. Now, listen, guys, we're going to take it's now 1:05. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Michael, are you still there, or did you go to sleep? Oh, he's still there.
No, one of the issues of having a home office is sometimes you're not always in sync with your wife, and she puts on the washing machine that's beside my office and rattles. So I didn't want to do that to you guys.
All right. So, Michael, we're coming to you, and we're going to take a break till 1:10. Jake, just before we have our break, what's up?
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say I have a quick call at 1:15, but Paula will still be here.
No, that's fine. You know, if somebody has to go, they have to go. But
if Jake's not there, I'm not going to do it.
We're gonna go on strike. We're going to carry placards. So we'll see you all back here in 4 minutes.
Property after our like our third daughter, because it was just too time consuming. But knowing what we know now, we would have kept it and just had.
So a food forest abundance is about planting a forest that produces enough food to nurture you and some other families perhaps. And it's not like you have to go out and weed the forest, right?
Exactly.
So in terms of perennials, in terms of regeneration, in terms of workload, it's really remarkable. And if you have time, the founder of the Food Forest Abundance Program spent about an hour with us, and you have the recording.
Okay, yeah, no, I'll move that up on my list. I got a lot of
Right.
your content.
Okay.
I have to consume.
Good. All right. So we're coming back to Michael, and Michael, I'm going to share the screen. Michael asked for a little bit of help from me, so that he could share his slides on something really, really exciting. Michael is a developer with quite a bit of experience, a lot of experience doing residential development. And this project is in the Cowichan Valley in BC, one of God's most wonderful parts of the world. And it's only one of many developments that Michael has done or is planning to do. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Michael.
All right, thank you, Bruce. So, the question is where to start. The funny part is, as I walked by this property, I'm sure you all know the story about diamonds in your own backyard. On this particular one, Gibbons Gate, I've been walking by this property through the lifespan of 2 dogs. And I always wondered, why is nobody doing anything with this? It's in the middle of town. Everything is built up around it. So I tracked down the owner and sure enough, went over this, that, and the other thing and ended up buying it. And it's there. All the services are there. And now here's another tip. Get a second opinion, like what they tell you about from a doctor. Do it with an architect too. It turns out my architect retired. And then the new architect said, well, you can put more units on this. So originally we were told that the maximum number of units was 58. And the new architect says, no, you can do 88. So the numbers just got an awful lot better.
So Michael, can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
So what I did was I took your presentation, I made a PowerPoint out of it, and you can just talk to each slide, and it will sum up all the stuff that you've talked to me about over the more than a year now. So tell us about the Cowichan Valley.
Sure. I've been to 116 countries, and I think the Cowichan Valley is the best place on earth. It doesn't get too hot, doesn't get too cold. There are no bugs. Outdoor activity. I've been skiing and snowmobiling in the morning and boating and motorcycling in the afternoon on New Year's Day more than once. It's far enough away from a big city, yet close enough you can go to a sports game in Vancouver or even Victoria. So it's got that sweet spot. The word warmland translated to English means, the word Cowichan translated to English means the warm land, doesn't get too hot or cold. As we know, there's 0% vacancy, so CMHC, is going to, even though I love their 1.25% interest rate on a 50-year amortization, but they've slid that up with all the other stuff. It still makes a lot of sense financially.
What are they charging now?
They're at 3.25%.
That's still better than the 7.39% I got on my triplex.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got 0% vacancy here. We've got 0% seniors vacancy. We have 0% unemployment. So I know of people that have bought industrial land. I know 5 companies that have between 150 and 450 employees, and they're not building their factories because they have to bring in people from elsewhere, and there's no people. Affordability is gone. And another thing to check when you're looking at buying a property is check the average income in the municipality. We are 3 municipalities in this valley, and if I was 1 kilometer over, I would have to have below market rents in order to get the CMHC funding. But because I'm in the right municipality and the income is higher, we can hit the 10% affordable housing that is required by CMHC without and have that at market rents. So you can sort of see on that map, we're pretty close to Victoria and Vancouver, and just past Victoria is Seattle. For the ladies on this call, the shoe store in Duncan is the size of a shoe box, and women come from Seattle, Victoria, Vancouver to go to this little shoe store. I've been in it. I don't understand, but I just thought I'd let you ladies know that. There's the artist rendering of the building.
So can you describe the building? What is that grade, and what is on second and third floor?
Yeah, so the unique part of this zoning, here it's called C2. So it has to be commercial on the main floor and residential above. So there's 2 floors of residential, and the reason there's only floors is because of the height restriction. So we can only go too high, but what the new architect found out is we can go wider and L-shaped with the setbacks. And because you can't see it on this image, but to the left and right of this are existing medical buildings, and across the street is the hospital. So we are going to rent to doctors and those types of medical clinics. There you go.
So the hospital is how far away?
Well, you know, it looks further on this drawing, but it's actually half a block away.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So people there will just walk, you know, and you know, we started a wait list, which by the way, helps with your financing. We're over 800 people on our wait list.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. And we tell people you're not going to be able to get in this till late 2023. And this is full application, not people that have just hit the website. This is people that have taken the time to fill out the full thing. So that helps. You know, I had one of the short-term lenders say, I don't believe you. So I sent them a screenshot of the beginning and end of the spreadsheet. And they go, wow, okay. The hidden benefit to have a huge wait list like that is you get to screen the tenants like they're going to date your daughter.
That's a good one. I'm going to steal that one. So look at the yield, everybody. Here's the functional program. 1 acre, 54,000 square foot. So more than 1-to-1 coverage. An acre is 43,560 square feet. So you've got more built up area than you have land area, which is great. You've got about, I guess it looks like about 3/5, about 60% of it is residential, 88 units, as Michael said, almost 16,000 square feet of commercial space, which can be rented out triple net. Now, this is amazing to me that you can build it in BC for $240 a square foot. How confident are you in that, Michael?
Fairly confident. You know, we've lined up with some builders that have been around for decades, so they have their contracts with LePAGE and with the steel companies and whatever. And this is concrete and steel too, not wood construction. Yeah, I will not build wood construction. Wood is beautiful, but concrete and steel doesn't burn. And plus, there's a lot of REITs and pension funds that will only buy concrete and steel.
Yeah, when I see that $240, you know, concrete and steel structures that I'm seeing in Ottawa, mind you, Ottawa costs I think are different, are at least $350 a square foot. So $240 to me is a very good number.
Well, and one of the things that drops it down too, the residential is much higher. You know, it's closer to 300.
Yeah.
But on the commercial, it's, you know, it's a stripped unit, so the commercial is $151 a square foot. So it helps average, brings it down.
So it shows here your budget, Michael. It shows development cost $3 million for land. Did you pay $3 million for that acre?
No, that's what I rolled it in to the joint venture at. We got it appraised at 2.5 million, and then with the work done to date, you know, we probably had 20 people look at doing the joint venture, and some of them said, well, we're only going to give you your cost of 1.7 million. I said, well, then you're not going to be my joint venture partner. It's worth 3 million. That's the value we're going in on. I politely said, take it or leave it.
Yeah. So Paula and Dave, I want you to pay particular attention to that Michael did not roll in his land at his cost, of which was 1.7 million. He rolled it in at 3 million, right? So as a developer, and of course, Dave, I know Karina knows this as well. You know, you should always be looking at a lift when you're, you know, because I mean, Michael had to find the diamond that was lying up there in his backyard. He had to take the risk of purchasing it, then he had to do all the work to get it to this stage. So you don't put it in at cost, you put it in this case, almost 100% more. And I think that's right.
Yeah.
By the way, Michael, if my dad was alive, he would tell you that's exactly right. You want to mark it up by 100%. When my dad told me this when I was a young fellow, I said, Dad, 100%? Who makes 100%? And he said, Bruce, if land development is such a difficult business, it's so risky that if you don't mark it up by 100%, you'll go broke. And he was right.
Yeah, absolutely. I won't buy a piece of land that I can't, you know, do some structural or, you know, paper improvements to, zoning or getting geotechs done or stuff like that I can't double the value on, otherwise don't start.
So Dave, does that sound like Karina and Flip the Paper?
Yeah, it does kind of. Yeah, you put all your costs in there, your soft costs, development costs, and it obviously adds up to eventually get your 100% because all the work you put in, right?
So can you talk a little bit about the project budget that we're seeing on the screen here, Michael?
Sure. I'm just trying to think of which part you want me to.
So I think, first of all, I would draw attention to the very first line here. The number of units, notice up here, guys, 88 units, but there's 68 of them with 20 lock-off suites. So right away, Michael and his team have sort of, you know, cottoned on to the fact that you can improve your ROI, your cap rate, your life cycle return by including lock-off suites. So that's, I think, a very positive element. The other element that I liked was, you know, Bob, are you still there? Maybe he's looking after his granddaughter, but you know, Bob will make a few $1 million from Madawaska Shores, but on this one project, you know, Michael and his group could make $10 or $11 million. So I thought the top line and the bottom line were the most interesting things on this slide, Michael.
There you go. And to flip back to someone else's presentation about where you can make the basement bigger as long as it's below grade. We're doing that on this property, one, because of parking. That's one of the reasons for the lockouts, because the municipality looks at 68 units, not 88 units, right, for their antiquated parking bylaws that we still have. But the parking, the underground parking garage, goes front to 3 meters from the back and side to side 100%. So from the front and sides where there's 0 setbacks is 100% parking.
So look at this, you guys. This is I'll go back here. This is the first floor, right? And I think if I'm hearing you right, the parkade goes considerably out from that building. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. The entire land, with the exception of, interesting, because it's all commercial on either side, there's 0 setbacks, but because there's a house at the back that comes on from another street, that has 3 meters back. So the back 3 meters, the rest right every inch of the property.
So everybody focus on this. This is the ground floor space. There's the second floor. There's the third. And I didn't notice this until you just pointed it out. look at the friggin' parkade. It's friggin' huge.
Yeah, $95 a month. Thank you.
All right, talk about some of the differentiated value.
Okay. By accident, my best friend in high school went on to engineering and became Canada's leading rainwater harvesting expert. So we'll be doing that. Doing some rooftop gardens. We're putting in a Tesla power wall and having the entire common area off grid. Okay. You know, it's easily doable because, you know, it's mostly just LED lights, and that will be a huge selling factor. Part of the plan is to have it that even when we leave the 1%, 0% vacancy world, if we ever do, people will never want to leave out of there. It's that cool factor, and it's also the right thing to do. The biggest one that I tell everybody, I don't care if you're just adding a suite in a basement, put in a separate meter. I don't care how much it costs you, the hassles for not having a separate meter. I mean, even where I've put in a metering device, they still argue, right? Where whatever you do, put in separate meters for everything. Everything. If you have different heat, if you have gas, you know, hydro, water, always separate meters. Your overall consumption for the building will go down over 50%. So environmentally, for the planet, it's the right thing to do. And also for that hassles with the tenants, it's the right thing to do. Because units are smaller these days, you definitely want a common purpose room, someplace for them to socialize. Think of the Friends TV show, you know, getting together, that sort of thing. Another thing, if your municipality doesn't suggest it to them, for car sharing, not ride sharing, car sharing. A lot of them here in BC, if you put in one car share, that counts as either 5 or 10 parking spots.
Wow.
Okay. So you put in 3, you now have the equivalent of 30 parking spots. Plus the tenants like it, especially when they can walk to work and walk to the grocery store anyways. Once a week, they need a car for 20 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, etc. And then for aesthetics, we design the balconies and things like that to have plants, ivy that isn't going to eat the building, things like that.
Of course, I like the one on the bottom right.
Yeah. Yeah. So with the lock-offs, we've designed them so that whether it's an extra teenager that you just needs to have their own space, but for the most part, I think because of the 0% vacancy in the seniors aspect, and our entire municipality is now 37% seniors.
Wow.
I can see a lot of seniors getting that and having their live-in caretaker have their own apartment. Then plus the other Airbnb one, and we're going to allow people to Airbnb with some very strict rules. They have to be a super host. They have to have you know, strict rules and only accept you know, known Airbnb people, that sort of thing. Another big focus that I think everybody should do is medium-term rentals, because where municipalities go in and give a hard time for the short-term rentals, and where a long-term tenant has way too many rights in this country. Okay, that's one of the reasons we have this housing crisis. If they would just take the entire Landlord-Tenant Act and throw it away, a lot more people would build. But medium term, you get the benefit of not having to follow the Landlord and Tenant Act. So that's another good reason for having lock-off suites.
I think that's those are all strong reasons, and I think that the lock-off suite the utility over time is something very appealing. Paula, are you aware of the fact that Airbnb is now working with landlords like Michael, developers like Michael, to encourage them to allow tenants to do exactly this? Are you familiar with that?
No, I wasn't, but that's good. I do know, I think more landlords are coming around to the idea. I know a lot of people in the arbitrage space seem to be getting units easier now, so.
Yeah, so just so Paula, you know, and Michael, you know as well, Airbnb, you know, the people who run Airbnb are really smart. Like they are super, super smart. And they have been talking to major developers, landlords, et cetera, in the United States, and I'm sure in Canada as well, to say to them, look, let's say you have like a client of mine, a middle-aged lady who lives in Toronto in a beautiful building with an extra bedroom. She's on her own and she's above a subway, and she could Airbnb as a true Airbnb. It's really truly, Paula, a bed and breakfast, right? Because she lives there. And she accepts women executives who are traveling to Toronto. They come in, they have the extra bedroom. You know, she'll arrange tickets to go to a play or something like that, go and see a Raptors game, whatever. And it helps her pay her rent. And then the landlord said, oh, no, we can't have that. And they stopped her from doing that. And that tossed her from somebody who was doing quite well, you know, she's not a wealthy person, to somebody who's on the margins now. And I think that's wrong. I just think that's absolutely wrong. I mean, as a landlord, you want your tenants to be more successful, because if they're more successful, presumably you will be. And if I had been the landlord, I would have said, look, go to the lady and say, look, you're Airbnb-ing your second bedroom. We would like a share of those revenues. Can you give us 20% of those revenues? I'm sure she would have agreed. That's augmented tenancy, right, Michael?
Yep, absolutely. Everybody wins.
And so Airbnb, you know, they didn't have to come to Bruce Firestone and ask about that. They figured it out on their own, that it is part of the process that people can use to, you know, to as they get older, to sustain themselves, because you know, neither President Biden or Prime Minister Trudeau are going to send you or me extra money. Right now, the average CPP payment is $690 a month. It's very hard to live on $690 a month. You can't rent a room in Ottawa for that, and in BC, you certainly can't rent anything. So Airbnb, those people are very smart, Paula, and they have figured it out. And so you will get support, Michael, I think, right from the corporation. All right. So one of the questions I had for you, Michael, this was me challenging you a little bit, was because the parkade is so huge, I didn't realize it was even bigger than I thought. Why wouldn't you put a few workshops in the basement? Some of my clients who've been building multi-res and who've been putting, you know, converting some of their parking spaces to small workshops have had a lot of success, not just because they get some, you know, from a parking space, a 200 square foot parking space, you said you could get $95 for a 200 square foot workshop. At least in Ottawa, you can get $400 or $450, or I think I'm getting $495. Yeah. So why would you not go with something that's $500 a month instead of $95 a month?
We are doing that, but what we're doing we're doing it. Basically, we wait till we have inspection and we're in there and we're done, because the municipality is you know, not modern and flexible and understanding. So that's in our spreadsheets and business plan and whatever, but we wait until it settles a bit, and then we take some of the parking spots and put those in.
Fair enough. I understand. You know, that again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier in this massive class that we're going through, almost 3 hours, I guess, 2.5 anyway. So, you know, I do think that for clients of mine who've been doing this, and they don't build them as big as this, but they have 35 unit apartment buildings, and they find that their parkades are not full anymore because there's so many people using transit or working from home, and they just use Uber or Lyft. So it makes a remarkable difference. Like 12 workshops in one building pushed the cap rate up, I think, a full point, which was quite significant. All right, enough of that.
Yeah.
So now, in terms of the financing plan for the development itself, if I understand it correctly, you're going to lease the ground floor units, or you could lease the ground floor units on a triple net basis, meaning the tenant pays a base rent plus utilities plus part of the property taxes, or his or her property taxes, plus their share of the operating costs. but you could also sell them off as individual condos. Have you decided which way you might go?
We in the business plan, we run both scenarios, and we've put out feelers to the few commercial agents that are here and some of the doctors that we know, you know, personally from different charity events and things like that. So we've, you know, we're doing that, and it sort of goes into my next thing, is that whenever you build a multi-unit building, whether it be residential or commercial, have your lawyer register it as condos, even if you're not selling it as condos. Because if you try to do it afterwards, will cost you a fortune. You'll have hassles from the people and everything else. You do it at the beginning. The only difference is you own all the condos. In this case, we're going to own 88 condos above, and we're going to own 6 or 7 commercial condos below. Another trick is, if you have a building with commercial and residential, have 2 separate condo corporations, because business people and residential people have different needs, wants, and desires. So to back up a step on the financing plan, one of the ways I get to ground zero, so to speak, is I take people in as lenders. So in other words, people will put in $250,000. They get 10% on their money paid out when we get paid from CMHC. So 2 or 3 years from now. Okay. And now they own a percentage of the building. So they've got 0 money invested in it in 3 years, and they own part of an apartment building. So I do that to get the capital that, you know, CMHC or the banks or credit unions want to see you have a certain amount in. So that's how we get to that point. And then we decide, are we going to keep this forever and have it as an income, or are we going to sell it to a REIT and everybody just gets a nice dividend?
Fantastic. Here's some of the numbers. I'll talk to these, Michael. Net operating income on the building, Michael's showing it at about $1.56 million and a cap rate of 5%. Cost to build $20 million. Fair market value after completion about $31 million. Gross profit, if it was sold, of about $10 or $11 million. And I have gone through Michael's numbers, and in my opinion, both the net operating income and the fair market value cap rate, the net operating income is actually lower than it will actually be, because I can't believe what people are paying for rents. You know, I've talked to you guys about the Park Bridge model, you know, the trailer park, the modular home, the cottage park model. We've talked about it with Dave and Karina. And the fact is that in BC, people are paying $1,600 a month to park their modular home or their trailer on a site that Park Bridge owns. It's incredible. $1,600 a month. I thought it was $600 a month. It's $1,600 a month. So the rents that Michael has used in his spreadsheets, I think, are really very conservative. They're too low. So I think that this number at the end of the day will be could be quite a bit higher. And Michael asked me to put this slide in as well. That you know, Michael has done quite a bit of work in this area, and anytime you do work in this area, you always have to say, look, these are our best. This is our best understanding of a project, right? We're not guaranteeing anything. Nobody can be 100% sure that it's going to cost $240 a square foot to build something, or $270 a square foot, or even $300. So you should remember this as well. That's your disclaimer. And here's a picture of the actual site. It's a 1-acre site on Gibbins Road. If you're interested in more information, you can check out affordableapartments.ca. And the fact that you've got 800 people on your waiting list, Michael, blows my mind. And Duncan's not that big. How many people live in Duncan?
Where do you draw the circle? We say the trading area is 135,000. In our tighter little area is probably 10 or 12,000. But, you know, I mean, all the big box stores are here, so the whole valley comes here.
Just think about that, whether it's the Cowichan Valley with 135,000 people or Duncan at 10 or 12,000 people, 800 people on a waiting list. I mean, and you probably don't do any marketing either.
Zero. Haven't spent a penny on advertising.
Yeah, well, I've never had an 800-person waiting list. All right, well, that was a fantastic presentation. Thank you. Jessica, are you still there? You're the last one. Where are you, Jessica?
I am.
Oh, thanks for hanging in there. I'm going to make you the co-host. And
no, actually, can you just share your screen with what I
yeah,
sent
I
you
can
this
share my
morning?
screen. Yeah, I have your slides. I'll do that. Just before we come to you, Jessica, is there, I know everybody must be getting tired, but are there any last questions? Michael is coming to Merida, by the way, Jake and Paula, and Bob and Dan. He's coming to Merida with us, and you know, he's a very experienced developer. And as I said, the idea of this Merida course is changing a little bit, because we've got people like Michael coming, people like Jake and Paula coming, and Aaron Markle is coming, and many others. We've got a top-notch architectural technologist, Dustin Poole, is coming, and many other people. I've got a financial guru coming. His name is John Connolly. And just so you know, Paula, they're not all old people like me. There's a lot of young people, even younger than you and Jake. So we'll have a mix of ages, and we'll have a lot of fun. But the fact is that the course itself is going to be a lot of cross-pollination, I think is what I'm looking for. All right, Jessica, I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second. I think it's, did I get the slides right?
We'll see in a second. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Jessica Rush. I am probably the most baby in this cohort in terms of where I'm at in my real estate journey. I have a hard stop in 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but it won't be too long. It really won't be too long. I think everybody here is way more experienced and has way more things under their belt than me.
Okay,
So
just stop for a second, Jess. Jessica,
go.
just stop for a second. Everybody, let's give Jessica, you know, one of those round of applauses or something, that so she doesn't feel that we're going to, you know, I'm gonna give you a reaction. I don't remember how to do it now, but no, I don't want you to feel intimidated, Jessica. Rookies are welcome here, and don't feel. We're all here to support you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's called Wooden Getaway Net Zero Carbon Lifestyle.
Yes. And that was done yesterday at 11. So I opened my corporation a year ago. So it's brand new. It's called Rose Capital Investments. And I'll say we because it's the corp, but you'll see quickly it's a one-woman show, and we are looking to develop land in Quebec and Ontario. It's a startup. Like I said, we incorporated last year, so we're just over a year old, and we are lining up our first deal with Bruce as a coach. So the corporation will use private capital to fund the projects. And I'm thinking of using the Mad River structure that we learned. No, not yet. That we learned.
Oh, I apologize.
I don't see my presentation anymore.
That's
that we learned in the course. Again, it's a one-woman show. It's just myself, president and CEO. I am single. I don't have an amazing partner to support me. The land that I found is not inherited. I have to find my own. I have not inherited anything, so I'm really starting from scratch. So president and CEO, I've recently been licensed to be a representative dealer on the exempt market, hence why I'll be using private capital to syndicate the funds. And as a private equity specialist, I'm in a position to raise money for other projects, while also if I'm able to generate or provide a pipeline of successful project or viable project to finance them by my own or through the firm that I work with. Next slide. I just scroll down, I guess. Site acquisition and due diligence. So what happened is that my aunt came to me 2 years ago. She had a lot that her boss, her dentist, wanted to get rid of. He's in his 70s. He wanted to just cash in. Nothing was built. And obviously she turned to me and she said, Jess, can you do something with it? And I said, okay, sure. So I looked at the lot. The lot was way too small to do anything. And what I realized is that the municipality, Sainte-Sophie, auctioned a couple of lots years ago, maybe 30 years ago, to different individuals, so particulars. And and all the lots were too small because then the bylaw of the municipality changed and you need a minimum size lot to develop. So what happened is that everybody owns like 400 meters of land. And so there are 10 parcels to merge. They belong to 5 different owners. The total site size is just over 3,000 meters square. And I'm still doing due diligence. So there's some new laws that came out in Quebec, and I need to look at if there's a lake, if it's too close or not, doing ground test. I think someone mentioned that in another presentation. And Bruce, we did brainstorm some midterm Airbnb option, but I would like to look into short-term just to see, because some municipality in that area don't allow short-term. So I still have to clarify a couple of business models options. Next slide. So this is where it is. So Montreal is down. Laval is the northern island of Montreal, where I grew up. And then Saint-Sophie is where the red dot is. And you'll see Saint-Sauveur on the top left, just really quickly. Yeah, so it's kind of between Saint-Sauveur and Montreal. It's just outside the big suburb. Laval grew a lot, so there's a lot of urban sprawl. You kind of see it close to Blainville, Saint-Thérèse going up the highway. So it's up that corridor.
It's incredible, Jessica, how much Montreal has grown. You know, I mean, it started on the island, and then Laval became this huge city, and now look at it, it's coming all the way up here. And the one thing that supports the idea of going with short-term rentals for you is the fact that Montrealers love to get out of Montreal.
Definitely. So next slide, zoning. So again, a bit like another person mentioned today, we're just drilling back to the single family home, legal secondary suite. Again, the zoning or the bylaw mentioned a minimum of 3,000 meters square. And so I'm looking to have this kind of Chelsea. I don't know if people are from the area, from Ottawa but kind of this Chelsea feel. So I did drove by multiple times at this point. So it's kind of that feel. So you're like in the wood, it's kind of suburb, but not too suburb. Yeah, everybody's on septic. You have to keep trees between your neighbors. So there's no six-plex going on there, because I did ask if I could do a semi-detached with legal secondary suite, and they said no, it would be just one house. So they're trying to limit density just because of the style of the municipality is trying to keep. Next slide. Highest and best use. So using what we've learned, the Gigaplex Mini would be perfect there. Airbnb, maybe mid, I don't know, MTR, and maybe adding a workshop at the back, or maybe backyard glamping. You'll see a bit more of the lot in the next slide. For me, I know this is really technical, but for me, the highest and best use is also maybe personal in the long term. All my family is either on the North Shore or in Laval. So this specific lot is 30 minutes away from my dad's, my mom's, my aunts, and my brothers. So if I want to go back in the area, I could have a really nice little spot and then be able to roam around to see my family. So that's a high and best use for myself. So urban design, like I said, it's a bit like a Chelsea cottage feel. I did put a rectangle around the lot. So you'll see that there is a house just on the top and there is a house just on the bottom, but in between, that whole stretch is still to be developed. And I see you're scrolling at the back. The back is not open for development yet, but so we're just focusing on that little stretch. So that's the Gigaplex Mini that I just took from the course material. I'm thinking about doing a couple of modification. I think that's the next slide, if it is. Yeah, so we're talking about, I would like to have this net zero compound or house. I'm really interested in, and we saw that this agricultural net zero off grid. I'm totally up for it also. So I would like to modify the Gigaplex Mini to make it a bit more energy efficient. So I'm thinking about light pipes, a solar tube for basement, skylight for the upper unit, solar glass windows, large windows, electric charging station. Someone mentioned Tesla, I think the presentation just before me. I'm thinking maybe a Tesla charge and a normal electric charge for cars. And I do want, Bruce doesn't want me to say geothermy, geothermal system, but it would be an open loop hydronic heating cooling system. And I think someone else will share some links about some other cool solar heating systems. So this is the kind of thing I'll be looking to integrate, and solar hot water.
Just so everybody knows what geo-exchange is, geothermal is like stuff that you would see in a place like Iceland or Idaho, where the magma, which is underneath the Earth's crust, is close to the Earth's surface. So you can go down into very, very, very hot parts of the Earth and obviously extract heat and power. Geo-exchange is different. If you have two wells on a property, you can take water out of a well, take it into a house or a commercial building, put it through a heat exchanger, take out heat or cooling. In the summer, you take out cool, and in the winter, you take out heat, and then put it back into the second well, right? So it's an open loop, and I've done it. I had a beautiful executive home on like 28 acres. I had two wells on there. I went with geo-exchange, and while everybody else was paying, $400 or $500 a month for winter heating, I think running the fan and the pump, it was costing me something like $60. So geo-exchange, if you don't know what it is, and it works in Florida too. If you have a pond, you can use the pond for that. If you have a well, you can use the well for that. But it's different from geothermal. Geothermal wouldn't work in Florida and certainly wouldn't work in Ontario. But geo-exchange works just about anywhere.
I think the last slide is the next one. So like I told you, it won't last too long. The ownership, the venture ownership structure and financing with respect to Mad River structure. So you're looking at typical revenues. Revenues in Quebec are a bit lower if I'm thinking of regular rental, not the medium-term rental. So if we just use $1,500 for both unit, we get to almost $36,000 in revenues. And then if we the lot would be, let's say, just over 100,000, to build would be, let's say, 350. So it gives a cap rate of like 6, which is okay. Like we calculated 7 right here. So yeah, so this is my first land development project. And again, I'm looking to raise it through my licensed representative dealer, with my license of being a representative dealer. And that's about it. I'm probably going to use friends and family's money to buy the land. I did not say that part of the land is already owned by some people close to me. So that's kind of done, but there's the rest that needs to be bought. And out of the 5 owners, one of them is a close friend, and the other one of the 5 is the municipality itself. So the municipality is open and looking to sell that lot and see it develop. So that's a good thing. And this is what I'll be focusing on.
I think, Jessica, you undersell yourself in terms of your presentation. You went through it very fast, but you actually are a good presenter, and you're convincing, and you're confident, and I think you did a good job. In terms of the project, again, at a 6% cap rate, and given Quebec has more rules and regulations than a porcupine has quills. Quebec is, it's more like France than it is the United States. Houston, for example, has no zoning bylaws at all. It's the land of the free and the home of the brave, or whatever it is. So Houston is quite a bit easier to do development work in than, say, Quebec. And the reason I suggested medium-term rentals is I've got a number of Quebec clients who do not want to go through the hassle of being licensed for Airbnb. Paula, you may know this or you may not. In Quebec, licensing is not done by the municipality, it's done by the province. So if you want to run an Airbnb in Quebec, you have to go through quite the process. I have a number of clients who've gone through the process, but I also have clients who would like to be in the short-term rental business, but they cannot stand the amount of bureaucracy. So they do medium-term rentals, which are sort of 30 days. One of my clients has a beautiful cottage in Quebec, and he puts his cottage up, it's furnished and all the rest of it. He does have it on Airbnb, but the minimum stay is a month. And then he doesn't have to be licensed by the Quebec fascists. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but the Quebec bureaucracy, which are very, very difficult. They come in, they do an inspection, they put you through a personal list of, I mean, they ask you a lot of personal questions, and they do an inspection of your premises, and many people get turned down.
Oh, really? Well, I hope this doesn't happen down the road. But, you know, I just want to say that I'm really comfortable with bureaucracy. If I can just put it out there.
That is a very that's a big competitive advantage for you, Jessica, because you know, if you are comfortable dealing with bureaucracy and you're willing to go through the hoops, that's great. And by the way, I do have a number of clients in Quebec who've done it, and they're Airbnbs. I told you about one, you know, Cabin Faubert, which is run by a young woman. It's been a phenomenal success. It's a cabin in the middle of nowhere. It's themed as a romantic getaway, and she makes $5,000 or $6,000 a month from a one-bedroom log cabin, right? So if you're willing to put up with the BS and the hassle, that would be a huge deal for you to get licensed for short-term rentals. Because Montrealers, I know, they like to party and they like to, you know, get out of Montreal, as I said. And Saint-Sauveur is how far away?
35 minutes.
Yeah, so you're half an hour to some great skiing in Saint-Sauveur. All right, do we have any other questions for?
Yeah,
yes, David.
I got a quick question. You were talking about the, you know, how you putting the land together. I know it's 5 lots or is it 10 lots? You said
It's
10. So you said there's a house on either end, and you're paying 100,000 per lot in between. Is that what I got from that?
No, I'm paying between 10,000, 7,000, and 10,000 for each for 500 meters. Some lots are a bit bigger, but yeah, no, it would be like 100,000 for everything, including some of the municipal fees, like to aggregate things and stuff.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking, which for you're paying for raw land, right? So raw land, you're talking 5,000 to 10,000 per lot for raw land. So so I was thinking about the cost per house. How much are the houses on each end?
Well, the thing is, there is no house now, and the municipality said I would only be able to do one house, so one house with a suite. But when you look at the slide, Bruce, I don't know if you can go back. Yesterday I was making that rectangle, and I thought it made no sense.
Yeah, no, because
the one with the
there
rectangle.
was a house on each side. That's what I thought you had said. So I was like, oh.
Yeah, no, but it's not mine. It's just that I'm trying to develop what's in between the two houses.
Okay.
But I feel like it's weird. It's weird that for that whole trench, you would only have one house. You know, they would only allow me to do one house for that stretch. Yeah. So I'm going to try to work this thing out. So we get to 6% just with one house, but I just find it weird. You know, if we decide to continue the street, Richard and Domain, you could just, anyways, like the 2 streets in between, you could put like, you know, at least 2 houses.
So
but it's weird because in real life though.
Jessica, if you think about it, roads cost money.
Yeah.
And I have never seen a lot, or very rarely have I seen a lot long and skinny like this where you have that much road frontage. And for the city to throw away this much road frontage to get a single house is an incredible waste of resources. I mean, if they want to be green, if they want to be environmental, they put the friggin' road in, and you've got this huge stretch, which is, I don't know, it's 100 meters or maybe, you know, and you could have put one house on it. That doesn't make any sense.
Bruce, do they have anything in Quebec where they can do like coach homes and like that, or bunkies or anything like that on that property that you could explore in the meantime?
Well, I don't know.
I actually,
I mean, like Jess has already done that. Go ahead. Sorry, Jess, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I think you're right. I did not look for a coach house because coach house would be separate, but I'll be exploring because there are different steps, obviously, and there's an implementation plan where you're putting what you want where. So I'll try to push a bit more to have something like that, even something with no not no electricity, but really basic, like a little bunkie in the back. I was thinking about that because even when I want to go back, if I don't need the full unit, I can just go back there. So I'll explore definitely some other options. Animation, I should say.
Just if it was me, I would take a look at getting a good planner and see about getting an exception, because I think Bruce is right. That property is so long and so much frontage. I think is a strong case, and with a good planner, get an exception to the zoning laws to put in to me, it would look like 4 homes should easily fit on there, if not 6.
I agree, 100%. And you know, I'm sure, Jessica, you know that if you got 2 homes instead of 1, your ROI
I know.
would go up. And if you got 4 homes, which I think if you look at the scale of that, if 4 homes would certainly work there, then you would be, yes, it would be a home run. All right, everybody, 3-hour class, holy smokes. Thank you so much, everybody. Wonderful presentations, amazing work. You know, I think we had some presentations today that were just mind-blowing, and I learned a lot. I'll see you all on the 21st of December for the 1-hour exam. I will send you the course workbook. Have a look at it. Get ready for your exam. And I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this get together, and I'm really going to miss you guys.
Thank you.
Excellent class.
Thanks
Thank
very
you,
much.
Thank you very much
everyone.
for
All right.
everything. All right,
Studying,
see you guys.
everyone.
Bye, Alex. Bye, Dan.
You guys.
Bye, Dave. Jake and Paula.
Thank
Daniel.
you.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Jessica.